Jockey Alan Herzig is suing former clients Bonnie and Paul Moorer for putting a stop payment on his fee. Bonnie is countersuing, claiming Alan slandered her.
Come to order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, all rise. Miss. Now, this is case number 129 on the calendar in the matter of Herzig versus Moorer. Party's been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Everybody have seats.
Mr. Herzig, you were retained by Mr. and Mrs. Moorer, according to your complaint, to be the DJ at their son's bar mitzvah.
Correct.
They gave you a $500 deposit.
Correct.
The balance due of $650. According to your complaint, you went to the bar mitzvah, you performed your service, the Moorers gave you a check for $650.
Correct.
And then they stopped payment on the check.
Yes, ma'am.
You want your money.
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. Moorer say that your services were not up to standard, that they feel as if they didn't get what they had contracted for, that you ruined their son's bar mitzvah. In addition to ruining their son's bar mitzvah, you slandered and defamed them by writing letters to the temple, by walking around with placards outside. I don't know what you said. And they're suing you for a refund of their $500 deposit, as well as another $4,500 for their aggravation.
Okay.
Correct. Sure. Okay. Where was the bar mitzvah?
Desert Shores Community Center, the same location that my young witness had his bar mitzvah.
Okay. And how many people did you have at the bar mitzvah?
Approximately 100.
When did you retain Mr. Herzig?
Approximately 2 months before.
Okay.
2 to 3 months before the event.
Do you have the contract?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd
It
like
was
to see it,
actually December 16th, 2004.
And when was the bar mitzvah?
January 30th, 2005.
Okay. Would you show this to Mr. and Mrs. Moorer and ask them whether they recognize signature on that and whose signature it was on the contract?
Yep, I have the same one in my...
Yes.
Okay, so that's the contract.
Yes.
All right. And you showed up?
Absolutely. Ready to do a job.
Showed up, and how many hours were you there?
I arrived at 4 o'clock p.m. Set up time from 4 o'clock to 5:30. At 5:30, start music.
And when did you finish?
9:30.
Between 5:30 and 9:30, did anyone approach you and indicate that they were dissatisfied with what was going on?
Ms. Moorer came up and said, I'm unhappy the music being played right now. It was during the dinner time. And I said, no problem. We'll promptly change it, which we did.
So other than that one time that Mrs. Moorer came up to you during the course of the evening, did either of them come up and say that there was anything wrong with what you were doing?
Later on at about 8:40, maybe 9 o'clock, Ms. Moorer came up and asked, she had given me originally that evening 4 additional notes to perform and to say, as I remember, something about one of them being guest had graduated from college. But there were a couple, how about those announcements? And I said, we've already made the announcements. I didn't know if she was in the room.
Can I add to that?
I'm going to get to you in a second. Okay. When did you get your check for $650?
After we put the equipment back into the van, we sat down at the table with Ms. Moorer, and we requested our check, and we started just kibitzing a little about the evening, and that was it.
She gave you the check?
Yes, ma'am. Wrote the check right then and there.
Did she say at that point anything to you about your service that evening?
Word zero. Which
okay. Yeah. Don't tell me what he's going to tell me.
Okay.
You say word zero.
Word zero.
Okay, who's going to speak?
I'd like to say.
Okay.
Okay. When I originally hired Alan to be my DJ, I had interviewed a few DJs. And one mentioned that he was going to have a disco ball for lighting, which, you know, I would like for my son to have something special. And he said, oh, that's outdated. I have sophisticating lighting. I have speakers with that blink, and I have, you know, and I was excited because I thought, wow, I'm going to have that. That was not at the party. That's what initially, after I watched the tape of the bar mitzvah, or it was even before then, I said to my husband, was there lighting? And there was no lighting. The montage that he made for me that he was professionally supposed to do.
I don't know what. Could you stop
A
hitting the
montage.
table?
I'm sorry.
At the table.
The montage of
A video montage that he supplied a projection screen that he told me he was going to add magic to. I scanned all the pictures at home on my computer and handed him a disc. He just added music to it, and he told me he was going to spin the pictures and do his magic to my pictures. And I have a copy of that here that I'd like you to see. That within the first 4 pictures, there was a slag in between the pictures. As a professional, after making a tape of this sort, he should have viewed it before he showed it to my guests. There was a slag, and everybody thought the tape was over after the first 4 pictures.
The sound system was inadequate. We had music cues for people as they were to come out and be introduced. That never went off. We didn't know he was going to have a 12-year-old child as his DJ, training
told me he
him
was gonna have an
at our
assistant.
bar mitzvah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He said he would bring an assistant. We didn't know it would be a young child that he would be given on-the-job training during our
He
affair.
trained his son throughout the... I
So
have it on tape also.
That was quite embarrassing for us, and our guests couldn't believe it. We had certain music that he left at
my
home.
father was an entertainer who had passed, and I wanted my family to hear my father's music while we're eating. I brought the tape. He didn't even bring it to the bar mitzvah. He had to call his wife to bring the tape to the bar mitzvah.
did she bring it?
She brought it, but it was stressful to me.
Now you've told me the story.
Some of it.
Shh. Now you've told me the story, and now I'd like to know why you gave him a check for $650 at the end of the evening.
My husband wrote
First
the
of all, he's not telling the truth. I'm the one that gave him the check, not my wife.
I don't care who gave him the check. You gave him the check.
He came over. He said, it's time to settle up. We still had guests around. I didn't want to cause a scene. It was a very big day, a lot of excitement. Took out my checkbook. I wrote him the check just to get it over with. And we went home and discussed it, and we got several complaints from guests. People called us. They emailed us. They told us the next day or two how awful things were.
I want to see those emails. I want, just a second, listen to me very carefully, Mr. Mora. I want to see the emails from your guests telling you how awful the bar mitzvah was.
I have.
Okay.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
You have those letters?
Those are some letters, but I want her to read this.
I want to see a letter.
I'll give it to them.
I just want to see an email. Oh, this is terrible. This is not what I want.
Okay.
This is not what I want. And this is not what I want. And this is not what I want. Did you understand English? English is, I want to see emails that your guests sent to you the day after the bar mitzvah telling you how horrible the bar mitzvah was. These are letters.
Okay.
These are letters 6 months later that you solicited from people saying, I was present at the Mora bar mitzvah and would like to make some comments about what I observed.
Well, she just printed it out that day.
Listen to me, madam. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Tell me one Bubba Mice, I find everything else that you say suspect. So that's a grandma story.
Oh, I know the Bubba Mice.
That's a Bubba Mice, a grandma story. It means it's an untruth.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alan Herzig says former client Bonnie Moore owes for his DJ services. Bonnie claims Alan did a poor job. She is countersuing for defamation of character.
What I want to see is a guest at a bar mitzvah, because I've been to more bar mitzvahs in my day than you have, and I've made more.
Okay.
I have never had a guest that wrote me a letter or sent me an email telling me how horrible the function was because of the DJ. So when you said to me, I got emails the next day telling me how horrible the function was,
I didn't say
that's not true. That's not true.
Don't argue with it.
No guest at a Jewish bar mitzvah tells their host and hostess what a terrible time they had. Now, solicited, you can get letters from people telling you that they thought that the DJ was awful. Call the guest and say, I'm going to court, and I want you to tell me, or I'm having a discussion or a dispute with it. Put your hand down. You tell me one Bubba Misa. You know what that means?
Yes.
Good. You tell me one Bubba Misa, I find everything else that you say suspect. So that's a grandma story.
Oh, I know the Bubba Mice.
That's a Bubba Mice, a grandma story. It means it's an untruth. It means what grandmas tell when they tend to fabricate. So nobody wrote you the next day or 2 days later or 3 days later what a terrible time they had at your son's bar mitzvah because of the music.
Your Honor, excuse me.
Don't speak to me yet.
Okay.
So the answer to the question is, you gave him a check the day of the bar mitzvah because you didn't want to create a scene at the bar mitzvah. And then you were talking amongst yourselves. Not because you got emails from anybody the next day, because that's a lie, or the day after that, and you decided to stop payment on the check, right?
Right.
Now, after you stopped payment on the check, Mr. Herzig called you.
Right.
When you called him, what did Mr. Mora tell you?
My wife was unhappy with your performance.
And?
And we are not paying you, and we don't want to hear from you again. We've dusted our hands of you.
Was that the end of the conversation?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any subsequent conversation with him?
I tried to.
So what did you do, Mr. Herzig? Because that's the second part of their complaint for which they want $4,500.
I sent them eventually I sent them an email. I left messages. I'm
not talking about what you sent to them. They are complaining that you slandered them.
I sent them an email. That was the slander.
He wrote letters to all the religious leaders in the community with this case.
You have copies of the letters?
And
Shh, just a second. Do you have copies of the letters that he sent?
I have one copy with CC's underneath.
Fine. I'd like to see it.
This was registered to me.
Okay.
He also sent a letter to the owner of the Israelite, which is the Jewish paper here in Las Vegas. I have a letter also from...
He carried a picket sign in front of our school, religious school.
Shh, just a second.
Okay.
Is this what you're talking about?
He sent that whole package.
Shh, just a second.
Yes.
This says...
He sent that to Mike, the owner.
Okay. And it says, how about a headline like Bonnie and Paul Morris stiffed their MC DJ?
Yes.
Well, that's what you did.
Okay.
That's what you did.
Okay.
You wrote
I
him a
don't think
check.
that he should be
Listen to me.
telling
You wrote him a check.
the newspaper that.
You listen to me. You wrote him a check, and then you stopped payment on the check. That means he got stiffed.
Disc jockey Alan Herzig claims client Bonnie Moore owes for services rendered. Bonnie is countersuing, claiming Alan slandered her.
Mr. Herzig says in this letter that he spent substantial time in your house helping you get the pictures scanned. Is that true?
He agreed that I told him I just bought the scanner. He agreed to come over and
So
do that. But he just showed me how to do it. I already knew. Go ahead.
Listen to me. The answer is he came over to your house, which is not contained in this contract, to help you scan the pictures
Well, I
into a
scanned them all.
scanner. Not contained in here. He did it because he was being...
Yes, he was. Very nice to do that. Although his price
Fine.
was outrageous to begin with anyway.
Mrs. Herzog, that's an untruth. He was charging you $1,150 to perform at your event, which included this montage of pictures. And if you're telling me that that's an outrageous price, you should have hired somebody else. I'm telling you it's not an outrageous price.
Okay. Well,
okay. And I'm still trying to find slander worth slander at all.
I don't think any of my business should be brought to the attention of my four rabbis. He sent it to in the newspaper.
God, listen, what you think is one thing. He could have been a nice person and not sent it to anybody else. But he chose not to do that. That's not actionable.
Going to the school at checkout time with a poster that says I owe him money, and I have a letter here from the receptionist.
Listen to me.
Did you want to
He
read
has
that?
a right. I'm not looking at a letter. He has a right to do that. You do owe him money. That's not libelous. That's something that's untrue. You do owe him money.
Okay. I
if you
believe
owed
he did
him-
a job. I think it was inferior.
Just a second. Then you don't use him again. Let us say that you go out for a meal, Mrs. Mora, with your husband and your family, and you go to a new restaurant, and you eat at the restaurant. You finish everything on your plate. And you get back in your car that evening, and you say, you know, they advertised this restaurant as having the best ribs in town. And the truth is, I don't like those ribs as well as I like the rib guy at the end of the street. So I played by credit card. And I'm going to cancel my credit card, despite the fact that I ate the ribs, paid the bill. And I didn't like the way the waiter spoke to me, so I'm going to cancel that charge on my credit card. You think you'd get very far, Mrs. Mora? Zero. So if you don't like the restaurant, the next time you're going out for dinner, go someplace else. It's not as if Mr. Herzog didn't show up. It's not as if you got somebody else to play instead of him. You allowed him to start at 5:30, finish at 9:30. I am absolutely 100% positive that people clapped to the music, danced if they danced to the music.
They didn't.
Were on the dance floor. Maybe not everybody. Some people were on the dance floor during the course of the event. In any event, you used his services. You ate his ribs. When you stopped payment on his check, you had no right to do that. You stiffed him. You stole his money. And then you said, you don't like it? Sue me. Which is what he's doing. He wanted to embarrass you. I assume he embarrassed you. That's too bad. What he was saying is true. He's allowed to embarrass you. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yes, how about he promised me the lighting system, the sound system was bad. I have on tape.
No, madam, I want you to take a look at your contract. And I want you to show me in your contract where it's in the contract.
No,
Listen to me. That's what you are bound by.
Okay.
The four corners of the contract. I want you to show me, Miss Mora, in the contract where it says that he's going to supply you with a lighting system.
Well, how about the sound system here?
Listen to me. I said, show me in the contract, in the four corners of the contract, where he says he's going to supply you with a lighting system.
That was my mistake, not having him write it, I guess.
You're absolutely right. What kind of business are you in, sir?
Hotel.
What kind of business in the hotel?
Casino.
What do you do in the casino?
I'm a department manager.
Okay. You know about contracts?
A little bit.
Good. Well, you have to explain that to your wife, sir. Anything that's within the four corners of the contract, or what courts consider if you sue him. If you said to me he didn't show up until 7 o'clock, and I find that he didn't show up until 7 o'clock, that means he gets docked. The fact that you didn't like the ribs is, as we say in French, that. Next time, do you have another bar mitzvah that you're planning? Don't use Mr. Herzog. He doesn't want you to use him. They owe you $650.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff and your counterclaims dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
What is the excuse? You missed.
3-year-old Jasmine Crum is suing family members Yvonne Fultz and her daughters 17-year-old Julissa Granberry and 22-year-old Janika Williams for vandalizing her car.
Order. All rise.
Young's case number 489 on the calendar, the matter of Crum versus Granberry Fultz Williams. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Crum, somehow you are related to these three young ladies.
Yes, Yvonne Fultz is my aunt, and
Who's the aunt? Yes?
and Julissa and Janika are my cousins.
Are they your children?
Yes.
For some reason, there was a falling out with your aunt and her children, and it is your claim that one or all of them were responsible for keying your car.
Yes.
When was your car keyed?
December 10th in the parking lot of Walmart.
Who had driven the car there?
Yvonne was driving her vehicle.
Who had driven the keyed car?
Oh, I drove my car.
What time did you get to the parking lot?
I'd say I was probably there around 9:30ish because I just got off of work and
9:30
in the morning.
in the morning.
AM.
What kind of work do you do?
I do medical assistant.
Who was driving your car?
Your Honor, at that point in time, I was at work.
You were at work?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of car do you have?
2008 Kia Rio, black four-door.
And where do you work?
At that time, I was working at Target Distribution in Woodbury, Minnesota.
You still working there?
No, ma'am.
Who was your supervisor?
My supervisor there was, I forgot her name because I'm not working there anymore due to all this stuff that's going on now.
I'll wait. Remember who your supervisor was and the phone number.
I don't have that with me right now.
We'll wait. Go get it.
Excuse me.
How old are you?
22.
And you?
17.
Where do you work?
Don't work right now.
What do you do?
I'm looking for employment.
What were you doing on December 10th, 2010?
I was at my cousin's house
Cousin's house where?
in St. Paul, Minnesota.
And where is this Walmart parking lot?
It's in Blaine, Minnesota.
How far is that from St. Paul?
Like 50 minutes.
How did you get to St. Paul?
My cousin.
Came to pick you up?
Yes.
How long did you stay there?
I was there for like 3 days.
From when to when?
Saturday and
Date?
I don't know what date it was because December 10th never happened at Walmart. And the 10th would have been a Monday.
I just asked you what date. You were visiting
I'm not sure.
with your cousin. I didn't ask you. December 10th did in fact happen. It was a day.
Yeah, I went over there before December 10th. And it was that weekend, so it was a Saturday. What I'm saying is December 10th, I don't know the date, but it was days before that.
Who went with you?
My sister and my daughter. She was suspended that day, so that's also why she was with
suspended.
me.
How old is your daughter?
No, my sister.
Oh, your sister
We were
was
together because
suspended.
it was a weekday and she was suspended from school. So we were together in St. Paul.
How old is your daughter?
She'll be 4 on April 21st.
Miss Crump, can you tell me whether this was a trip that you had planned to make to Walmart?
Yes, indeed it was. I was going to go to Walmart to go shopping for Christmas shopping for my kids.
Yes.
And as I was on my way there, I saw Yvonne Carr following me.
Just a second. You have the phone number?
Yes, ma'am.
And the name of your supervisor?
Jill.
Just hand it to me. Thank you. So you were on your way to Walmart and you passed the defendant's car.
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's when I seen her make a really quick right turn behind me. So I kept going, and at the time I'm on the phone with my mom too, saying like, oh, I see your sister and she's following me. And she's like, just keep going to where you're going. And I drove to Walmart, which was probably about a couple blocks from there. And once I got there, I noticed they were still behind me. So then I hurried up and parked.
Over there. Look at me.
So I hurried up and parked. And once I parked, they parked only about, I'd say, a few cars from me.
Who was in the car?
It was Yvonne, Janika, and Jaleesa.
Go ahead.
So anyhow, I parked, and they were still behind me, and my mom was on the phone, so I'm like, okay, they still here. Why are they here? So she said, just go into the Walmart. And before I get out of my car, I can hear them yelling, oh, I'm going to F this B up. If she don't get out the car, we'll break the windows and get her out. And if she just act funny or say something funny, we're going to beat her up.
So, Ms. Crum, there is no question in your mind that the defendants were at the Walmart parking lot on December 10th?
Correct.
That she was not at work at December 10th at 9:30 in the morning?
Correct.
And these two were not in, I don't know, visiting a cousin for a couple of days. They were with their mother?
Correct.
And I don't really have to get into what this family dispute was all about. I don't want to know. Okay. Suffice it to say, I assume that at one time you were a close family, and because of something you're not a close family anymore.
Right.
And nobody knows how to just not be a close family without being destructive.
Exactly, or violent.
I don't care. That's not my problem. I don't want to put this family back together. I don't care if you're not back together. All I care about is your keyed car.
Me too, exactly.
Now, did you go into the Walmart?
I did. I actually ran and afraid of being assaulted by them three. So I ran into Walmart.
And when you came out is when you noticed your car was keyed?
I noticed the damages on my car.
And you did not see any of them key your car?
No, but I'm pretty sure they did it because
Just
they were
a second.
saying...
It's very easy to determine. Can I see pictures of your car, please? Would you show me where it was keyed? Are you talking about these marks here? I don't know. It's very hard when you do these blow-up pictures to see what you're talking about.
Circle where the damage is, please.
Did you take those pictures with your phone?
I did.
I'd like to see it in your phone rather than blown up so that I can't see a thing.
And you can just move your finger towards the left and it should keep going.
Got it. Now I got it.
Okay.
Much easier to see. Thank you. Okay. So far, there is no proof other than your statement that they were, in fact, there. You didn't see them do it. But certainly, she says she was at work. They were in some other place. So if they were lying to me about her being at work on that day, that's easy, right? Yvonne, right? If you were lying to me about not being at work.
I have no reason to lie, ma'am.
Great. And this supervisor would know whether or not you were at work on December 10th at 9:30 in the morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct? Great.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You swore in an answer, I was at work. These two weren't with me. They were off someplace else because this one was suspended from school. You set a bad example. That's why she's suspended from school.
And later today,
Them raggedy bees keyed it, and I knew she was directing it towards us.
The raggedy bees were the two of you.
Yeah, well, she accused her
Okay, I
of
just
keying
want to
it.
know, the raggedy people that she was talking about were the two of you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jasmine Crum says family members Yvonne Fultz and her daughters Jaleesa Granberry and Janika Williams keyed her car.
Jill, this is Judge Judy Scheinlin. Good morning. I'm in the middle of trying a case, and there was a date in question as to whether one of your former employees was actually working. The date is December the 10th, 2010, in the morning. Thank you, Jill. Was she there at any time that week? Thank you very much, Jill. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Not supposed to lie in front of your children.
That I don't do.
You're not supposed to lie in front of your children and make them co-conspirators in your lie. You understand?
Your Honor, I am
Do you
not a liar.
understand?
Maybe I have got a date wrong because I was working a lot of
Listen,
overtime.
don't tell me I have the day wrong.
No,
you know
no.
exactly why you're coming to court. You know exactly the date. You swore in an answer. I was at work. These two weren't with me. They were off someplace else because this one was suspended from school. You set a bad example. That's why she's suspended from school.
No, Your Honor.
No? You don't think so? Well, you weren't working on December 10th. How much did it cost to fix your car?
I have the repair damages.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
I'm not speaking to you.
I haven't gotten it fixed yet.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Step out. Think twice about your mothering.
All these are excused. You may step out.
I'm pretty sure that they showed you all their drama right here on camera. They're drama queens.
They're all young adults, 18 and older, who physically assaulted my daughter.
2 years ago, Yvonne cut me with a butcher knife here. She cut me here.
I've been up and down for months and months with all this harassment.
I think it's maybe jealousy on their side.
I have a son who's been shot by somebody on her authorized side of the family.
I filed a restraining order to keep them away from me and my children.
It was just crazy to me how they thought they was going to come in there and lie.
I wonder why she hated on us. We never did anything to her.
I have assault charges. I have restraining orders and everything.
It's just been going on and on and on, and there's so much hatred and stuff in between the families.
With them people, there is no family.
I'm glad we came to Judge Judy today to settle that, and for once, somebody spoke up for us, and it looks right.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lewis versus Rowe. Step forward.
20-year-old Shanae Lewis is suing former friend, 20-year-old Brianna Rowe, for keying her car. Shanae claims Brianna admitted to the crime on Facebook.
Miss Lewis, it is your claim that the defendant keyed your car, caused damage in the amount of about $2,500. Miss Rowe says she didn't do it. How do you know each other?
I know Brianna because we were friends in high school. We hung out with the same people and went to the same parties, so we...
All right, so that's how you know each other.
Correct.
When was your car vandalized?
In the summer, around July 2010.
What do you mean around July?
July 2010. I don't know the exact date.
Did you report it to the police?
No, I did not.
Do you remember where your car was?
Yes, I do.
Where was your car?
It was parked at a mutual friend's parking spot in an apartment.
Where?
In Citrus Heights, California.
What's the address?
I do not know the name of the apartment.
I didn't ask you the name. What's the address?
I do not know the address.
What do you know?
I know that my car was parked in a covered parking spot that was allowed by the owner of the apartment.
Well, you can't tell me if it was allowed by the owner of the apartment because that's hearsay.
Okay, well, my car was parked in a covered parking spot.
And?
and it was keyed.
And?
And I have proof that Breonna Rowe did it.
I'd like to see your proof.
Well, we were at a mutual
Listen
friend.
to me.
Yes.
I want to see your proof.
Okay, I have documents of the pictures of my car.
Listen to me. I want to see the proof.
Okay, here's the proof of my car.
I don't have to see the keys car. You don't even know when it happened. I want to see proof that the defendant keyed your car.
Okay, well, she admitted on Facebook to doing it.
Let me see it.
This is the conversation right here, and it's highlighted right there.
Bird, you have younger children. Would it be possible for you to interpret this gibberish that is highlighted for me?
I'll give it a shot. Okay. Laugh out loud. I can care less for you. I keyed your car because my best friend didn't like you. But I'm too grown to go bad on you on Facebook. I'll leave being ignorant to you. I guess anyway, have a nice day.
It's almost like reading Sanskrit.
Yes. I don't dig text speak, but I know it.
Could you show that to the defendant?
Yes.
Take a look at that. Is that your thesis?
Oh, I have one of these too.
Well, I'm asking you, is that yours?
Mm-hmm. Did I write it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why did you tell her you keyed her car?
Because she had made a post that said, Granddad is getting my car detailed.
That said what?
She was getting her car detailed and fixed after them raggedy bees keyed it, and I knew she was directing it towards us because she accused us of keying her car.
The raggedy bees were the two of you?
Yeah, well, she accused her of
I just want to know, the raggedy people that she was talking about were the two of you. You knew that yourself without having been named. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Because she had already accused of us doing it.
So even though you weren't named, you decided to tell her that she was right, that you did in fact key her car. And if Officer Byrd read it right, you told her why you keyed her car.
I wrote it to make her mad.
Well, why would you think, if she already knew that you and your raggedy friend were the ones that keyed her car, why did you think it would make her mad if you admitted it?
No, she thought Elena had keyed her car.
No. She talked about two raggedy people.
She didn't say how many.
No,
people.
she said after them.
Yes.
Well,
and then,
raggedy, and she uses the word with an S.
Mm-hmm. Plural.
That would be two.
Yes,
two.
But
so
it was 3 of us at the house.
3 of you. Well, how many of you keyed the car?
None of us.
None of. Well, then why would you admit to keying her car?
Because she accused us of it. After her car got keyed, she came in the house, threw papers at Elena, and told us we keyed her car.
There's something wrong with you. Honestly, there's something wrong with you. I mean, I can't get myself overly exercised about this case, quite frankly, Miss Lewis, because you don't even remember what date it happened. How many times has your car been keyed?
None.
Well, one.
Well, once.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This is your Facebook page?
Yes.
And this is you with this bathing suit?
Yes, if that is a bathing suit.
Well, I just want to know.
Yes, that is me up there.
Is there any reason why you think that this is an appropriate picture just to send around the internet?
I did modeling, and that was a picture that I like, and I feel that I wanted to post it.
I need to take deep breaths. I need to take deep breaths.
It's only going to get worse.
Your Honor, me and the defendant had been friends before this happened.
The defendant and I had been friends also.
The defendant and I were friends before this happened. And the reason why I believe the motive that they had...
I don't care what their motive was. She admitted it.
Okay.
It's irrelevant to me what her motive was.
Okay.
I assume that you had some sort of a falling out. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Now I'll see the pictures of your car.
Okay.
When did you take these pictures of your car?
I took them when it happened, and then I took some more before I came.
And since you don't know exactly when this happened, sometime last summer, I assume you've been driving around with your car exactly the way it is?
Yes.
Do you have an estimate to have it fixed?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see. No, they're not repairing any dents. She didn't dent the car. She keyed it.
There's dent marks and scratch marks on
Very good.
That.
Yeah, okay. Could you explain to me why you filed this lawsuit for $2,500 and the estimate that you had was $15,000?
Because I am suing for, I believe that, for the scratches and for punitive damages.
For punitive damages for what?
Because every time that I have to drive around my car and have the word written on it, that's embarrassing for me to have to ride around and be disrespected like that. I have a newborn son, and I don't want that portrayed for me. I'm not.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
What do you have a newborn son for? I thought you went to school.
I do go to school.
Who takes care of your newborn son?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, spend $500, get your car painted. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Boyfriend, Andrew Anderson, for medical bills resulting from an assault. Chelsea says Andrew punched her after she accused him of stealing her money.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 527 on the calendar in the matter of Burton versus Anderson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Burton, it is your claim that the defendant, who used to be your boyfriend, assaulted you and damaged your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
On the same day. The defendant says you were the instigator of this altercation. He has a counterclaim. He says that you broke his laptop during this little hissy fit that he claims you were having, and also a necklace that he was wearing. First, tell me whether you and Mr. Anderson ever lived together.
Yes, we did at one point.
From when to when?
We lived together from the beginning of July to the end of July.
Give me the dates that you lived together.
July 1st to the 24th, 2010.
And did you move into his house or did he move into yours?
I moved into his house that he was living in.
Your Honor, she's lying.
Whoa.
This is a bold-faced lie.
Was I addressing you?
No, Your Honor.
Then don't speak. When I ask you a question, then you'll tell me your side of the story. Do we understand the rules, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you moved into his house July 1st to July 24th. Where did you move from?
From my mother's home.
How old are you?
I'm 19 years old.
Did you have your mother's approval in moving in with Mr. Anderson?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay Mr. Anderson rent?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
I paid him $100 for living there from the 1st to the 24th.
In whose room did you stay?
Mr. Anderson's.
How many people live in that home?
It was 4 at the time.
Who are they?
Mr. Anderson, myself, and 2 of Mr. Anderson's friends, males.
And from July 1st to July 24th, did you sleep there every night?
Not every night, no, ma'am.
When you didn't sleep there every night, where did you sleep?
At my mother's home.
How many nights did you spend at your mother's home?
It was about half and half, honestly. I was
All right, Miss Burton. Then we didn't live with Mr. Anderson.
Okay, but I paid the rent.
You see how nice it is when you're quiet? I'm really good at ferreting out the information that I need, Mr. Anderson. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't know where it's going to go, but I want you to trust me that by the time I get to you, I'll know more about this case than I did when I first came in here. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. So you didn't live with Mr. Anderson. Occasionally you slept in his room.
Right. But I paid rent there, and
I
showered.
don't care. I don't know whether you paid rent there or not. You have a receipt from the landlord?
No, ma'am.
You have a check?
No, ma'am.
Then you have nothing.
Yeah, I just paid him cash. I understand.
Then you have nothing.
I understand.
Then you slept over with Mr. Anderson 12 nights.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Now, on what date was this incident that you are complaining of today, Miss Burton?
2010.
August 18th.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were no longer even spending the night over there, because according to you, you were spending nights over there from July 1st to July 24th some of the time.
Correct.
So this happened on August 18th. You were no longer there.
Correct.
And you hadn't been there since the 24th.
Correct.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you happy? You're happier.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you're going to tell me what happened on August 18th, Miss Burton.
Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to read off my statement, or?
Oh, I wouldn't like you to read off your statement. I would like you to close your statement and tell me.
Absolutely. On August 18th, 2010, it was the afternoon. I don't remember the exact time, so I'm not going to say it. But Mr. Anderson called me pleading that he needed a ride home. He said he had no help. No one was going to help him. He had no other way to get home.
Where was he?
He was at a Shell gas station.
Did you call her and ask for a ride home?
No, Your Honor.
On August 18th, how did you first communicate with Miss Burton?
She called my phone.
And when she called your phone, what did she say, Mr. Anderson?
She was telling me, you know, she wanted to get up. She wanted to see me. And
She wanted to get up.
She wanted to link up.
Link up.
Absolutely.
And what time was this?
It was sometime in the afternoon, maybe about 3, 4 o'clock.
Where were you?
I was at one of my friend's house. I had just helped one of my friends load up some furniture and move her over to a new spot.
And then what happened, Mr. Anderson?
At that time, she called my phone.
Right, said she wanted to link up. Now, you hadn't seen her since July 24th, or you had seen her?
I don't think, I'm really not sure.
But you hadn't been together since July 24th.
Correct.
So had you had an argument on that date?
I really can't pinpoint the date because every time we talked or seen each other, it was an argument.
Okay, keep going. So you were at a friend's house.
So I was at a friend's house. She called me. I did need a ride back to my residence. So she gave me and my friend, Joshua, who's not present here today, a ride back to the apartment that I stayed at.
Is that the same apartment where she used to sleep over?
It's the same apartment that she's claiming.
That she slept over. I didn't say she lived there.
Yes.
She
Yes, you're right.
slept over.
Correct.
So she picked the two of you up and drove you home.
Yes, Your Honor.
From another friend's house.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what happened, Miss Burton?
Mr. Anderson has a past of stealing. I'm going to be honest with you.
Listen to me. Don't be honest with me. Just tell me what happened.
Okay, Mr. Anderson did, in fact, call me to pick him up. I would not go out of my way to pick him up from another female's home. Absolutely not. Never.
Listen to me.
I'm not a chauffeur, and that's not what
Listen
happened.
to me.
Okay.
You picked him up with his friend, and you drove him home.
He called me.
You picked him up with his friend, and you drove him home.
When we arrived at the home, I needed to use the bathroom. I asked Mr. Anderson if I can use his bathroom. I had a key to his home. I let myself in. Mr. Anderson and his friend was still in the car. My purse was in my car. I came back down to the car, and Mr. Anderson was telling Mr. Anderson goodbye. I checked my purse, because on a separate occasion, Mr. Anderson stole money from me.
Stop!
Okay. I checked my purse. Money was missing. I asked Mr. Anderson, I said, where's the money that is missing? He was drunk. It was in the police report, and I have evidence to show you. And he punched me. I fell to the ground. I grabbed his leg to try to get up, and he grabbed my hair and pulled my hair out. He also grabbed a bottle from his house. We were in the house at this time. We were in the house fighting.
Well, just a second.
Okay.
Miss Burton, how did you get into the house?
I let myself in with a key.
Just a second. Hey, listen to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was banging on my door like the psycho from... I told her to get lost, kick rocks. She forced her way into the house. I grabbed her by her arm and tried to lead her out the house. She still wouldn't go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chelsea Burton says ex-boyfriend Andrew Anderson beat her up after she accused him of stealing her money. Andrew is countersuing, claiming Chelsea destroyed his necklace and laptop.
Miss Burton, you let yourself into the house with a key.
Yes, ma'am.
You used the bathroom.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you came outside. That's what you just told me.
Correct.
You had left your purse in the car, which means that you had to sit down in the car, look in your purse. Now you say there was money missing. You asked him where.
At this...
Nope.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm just telling you what you just told me.
Okay.
You asked him where the money was. He said he didn't know where any money was, and he was drunk. You're telling me you just found out he was drunk? You couldn't detect he was drunk when you picked him up at his friend's house?
Not drunk and belligerent, no, ma'am.
You mean he got drunk and belligerent from
When
the
I asked
time
him
it
about
took
the
you to
money.
go to the bathroom?
When I asked him about the money, he got angry.
You got drunk and belligerent from the time you went to the bathroom to the time you came outside.
No, ma'am.
All right.
He had
Now,
been drunk. Okay.
The next thing you told me was when you asked him about the money, he punched you. That's
Correct.
exactly what you said. And you fell to the ground. And then you tried to grab his legs.
To get up.
And then he pulled you by the hair. And then somehow, miraculously, you're transported inside the house. Because you say, then we're inside the house, and he took a bottle from the house.
No, ma'am, I did not tell you the locations.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't tell you the locations as I walked. I let myself in. I used the bathroom. I came back out. He was in the car with his friend. He came out of the car. As I searched my purse, he was walking to his home. He was in his home.
I
went back to his...
Oh, you went
Right.
for just a second.
I went back to his home to ask about my money.
Just a second. Well, that's not what you told me before.
Okay, that's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
Well, but that's not what you told me before.
Okay.
I know you keep saying okay. So you followed him back into his house.
I did not follow him, Your Honor. He was already there. He was already settled. I had searched my purse because I know his type of personality. So I knocked on the door. Mr. Anderson answered. I said, do you have my money? Because you've done this to me before. Do you have my money? Please give me my money back. He punched me. And that's it.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. Now I'm going to hear you.
And I have pictures if you like.
I
Okay.
don't want to see your pictures. I don't believe that story.
Okay.
I don't believe that that's the way it happened. Do you understand?
Okay.
I don't believe that you knocked on the door and said to him, "Where is my money?" and he punched you in the face.
He did.
That may have happened, that he punched you.
Okay.
That's not the way it happened.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so after she picked me and my friend up, we went back to the house. I opened the door. She went to go use my bathroom. She used the bathroom. She left and went back outside.
Who opened the door?
I opened the door.
With a key?
Yes, Your Honor.
She did not have a key.
She didn't have a key until she had a key at one point because she knew where we left our key out because I had other roommates there. So if one of us had the key and we were getting ready to leave, we would leave it, so that the other person would have a way into the house.
Mr. Anderson, did you ever make Miss Burton a key to your apartment?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever give her a key to your apartment?
No, Your Honor. She went behind my back and talked to my friend.
No. You can't tell me what she said to your friend. All I'm asking you, Mr. Anderson, is whether or not you gave Miss Burton a key to your apartment.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So you let her in. She used the bathroom. She went back outside. Did you say goodbye?
Yeah, I told her goodbye. Within 2 minutes, she was banging on my door like the psycho from...
Go ahead.
I went back to the door to see what her problem was, and she said, "Give me my $10. I said, "What $10? She said, "The $10 that I had in my trunk." I then said, "From what point of me coming into the house, you using the bathroom and leaving, did I have time to go to a car that the doors were locked as well as the trunk with no key?" I told her to get lost, kick rocks, and, that was the end of it.
Stop playing with papers.
When I went to go shut the door, she forced her way into the house and broke my door off the hinges. I got pictures of that as well. After she forced her way into my house, I tried to handle her like a gentleman. I grabbed her by her arm and tried to lead her out the house. She still wouldn't go. I picked her up from behind. As you can see, she's not the smallest chick in the world. And she tried to throw all her weight down onto the floor, and this is when she broke my chain. I let her back up. She got up. She ran into the living room. That's when my witness came in, and she picked up a bottle, broke the laptop. As you can see right here.
Absolutely not true.
I've got a crack on the top.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
As you can see right here, I've got a crack on my laptop. The bottle actually went all the way through. And also cracked the front right here. And after she broke the laptop, she picked up a lamp and started...
Mr. Anderson, when the police arrived, which they did that day, did you report to the police that she had broken your computer?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Do you have that in a police report?
Not sure, Your Honor.
Do you have the police report?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see the entire police report, please.
Would you like me to submit medical bills and pictures at this time?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Miss Burton, you were the subject of a prior criminal trespass in his apartment building. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you were.
It says on police report, Mr. Anderson told the officer that.
Just a second. Oh, the officer said that Miss Burton was in the call history at this location as being criminally trespassed from this location on July 5th. You remember that?
That's when I was living there.
You weren't living there.
I paid rent.
You didn't pay rent.
I did pay rent, ma'am.
Listen, I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Okay.
Put your hand down. Let me tell you something else the officer says, which is why, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. The officer said, "I did not find either one of these subject statements to be correct." The whole thing doesn't make sense to me. He says that a whole bunch of stuff was in disarray. I didn't see anything about a computer when you spoke to the officers. You have nothing about your computer, Mr. Anderson? That's a very expensive computer.
It is, Your Honor.
Uh-huh.
And she's the one who broke it.
That's what you say.
At the
It
end
should
of the
be in
day,
here.
when you're dealing with somebody who...
It should be in the police report, Mr. Anderson.
Maybe the police were worried about the wrong thing. Instead of listening to what I was trying to tell them happened. When you got a female who's lying and comes out trying to put on a Mother Medea scene like she's all injured and hurt.
There is no question that she did not start to complain about her physical injuries to the extent that they required any sort of treatment until after the officer told her she was being arrested for trespass. According to the officer, when he told her she was being arrested for trespass, let me see what it says here. "I advised Burton that she was under arrest for criminal trespass. At this point, Burton's injuries became more painful, and she advised me that she needed to be transported to a hospital to be checked." prior to that, when the medical people arrived, Miss Burton had leg pain, she said, and 2 small scratches on her face. However, she refused treatment and refused to be transported. I'm speaking. Sorry. And refused to be transported to the medical unit and signed a refusal form to the medical unit.
Yes, Your Honor, I didn't have an insurance, and I told him that, and he said, you can still go, so he still took me.
No, that's not what he says happened. You see why I have a problem with what you're doing? I know what happened.
Okay.
I know what happened.
All right.
That's what the policeman said happened. You refused medical treatment, didn't want medical treatment.
No, I told the police officer, that officer was, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, ma'am. We're living in the state of Georgia. They're just ready to lock up young black people when they get into issues. He really was drunk. He has an issue with alcoholism, period. And
then you had no...
I was trying to help him.
No. If he has a problem with alcoholism, then you stay away from him. And if he has a problem with being drunk, then you don't go back into his house if you think there's $10 missing from your trunk. You leave, especially if you say that he's drunk. And it has nothing to do with the state of Georgia and police officers. The police officer offered you medical care. You declined it. When the officer checked him for warrants, it was nothing. But it came up positive that the police had been called to his apartment before saying, get her out of here, she's trespassing in my apartment. So the police said, we're going to arrest you. At that point, you said to the police, don't arrest me, I'm in pain, take me to the hospital.
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what it says here. You want me to read it to you?
I explained to the police officer I do not have medical insurance.
No.
It is this much. It costs this much for my injuries, $4,400.
Listen to me.
I did not want to pay for this out of pocket, but I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah, Miss Burton.
Honestly, I was in a lot of pain. I need you to understand that.
Just a second. How much time did it take you to get into a lot of pain? Now, you're having a conversation with the police officer, and you decline medical treatment.
Because of insurance purposes.
You think you're smarter than I am? All right. So you talked to the police officer. You said, whatever it is, I don't have medical insurance. I'm declining medical treatment. Then the officer says, we are arresting you for criminal trespass. And you say, I'm in a lot of pain. I want to go to the hospital. Now, between that period of time when you declined and said, I want to go to the hospital, took just about that much time. I want to know, is it within that time frame that your pain became either so acute or somehow miraculously you got insurance?
No, I did not receive insurance. Right. No, ma'am. But I was in the back of a police car with my hands tied behind my back. I was crying and screaming. My knees were buckled. I don't think you've ever been in a back police car, but it's very painful to be in that position. And it was getting worse as I was in that tight position.
Great.
And I told him I wanted to see the hospital in the beginning. I told him I wanted medical insurance in the beginning.
No, you didn't.
I told him that in the beginning, yes, ma'am.
Well,
it's in the police report, ma'am. I highlighted it.
You gave me the police report.
I highlighted where I told him at first I wanted med care. I did.
You mean if I were to come up with a form that is signed by you saying that you declined to be taken to a medical unit, are you telling me somebody forged it or did you sign it?
He gave me a paper.
Your case is dismissed, Miss Burton. And so is yours, sir. You don't belong with each other.
I didn't decline it.
Stay away from each other. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may... Versus Gardner. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please, sir.
You graduated from high school.
Correct.
You were in charge of the high school yearbook.
Correct. The senior section.
Where they put all the pictures of the seniors, and underneath it, you know, most likely to succeed, most likely to have 10 children before 30th birthday, those little things, right? And Miss Rice, you claim in this lawsuit, where you're asking for $3,500, that the defendant caused a very ugly picture of you to be placed in the yearbook. Correct. Not the picture you had selected.
Correct.
And that's because the two of you had some sort of a history together.
Correct.
So tell me about it.
She disliked me due to my relationship with her now ex-boyfriend, who's my witness. And she was very jealous, and this is a very malicious and dishonest thing to do. And
let me see the picture that she put of you in the yearbook.
This is the picture that was supposed to be in there, and if you notice, it says yearbook selection on the back. And I verified that with the photography studio.
No, that's not such a bad picture in there.
My eyes are half shut. It's not the point that it's like a horrible picture. It's the point that everybody that turns to that picture is going to see me and remember me as that. And that's not what I want. And that wasn't what I asked for.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that I looked at it because I was really picturing something that looked like Quasimodo based upon what you wrote in your complaint. I mean, you're a very pretty young lady. It would be very hard to make you look ugly. I want to tell you something. Truth of the matter is, I sort of like this one better than this one, but that's just my own personal taste. Let's find out what the defense is for putting the picture that she had not selected in the yearbook. Miss Gardner.
Okay. There's about 300 senior pictures that were in my charge. What was supposed to happen is that seniors were supposed to specify which picture they wanted in the yearbook.
Show her the back of that picture.
Either they were to call their photo company.
No.
Right.
She did that. She did everything she was supposed to do. Miss Gardner, I want you to look at me and tell me whether, when you selected that picture for her, did you get a stack of them from the photographer?
Yes, we got a whole box of envelopes.
Okay. That you took any special care in selecting her picture?
No. There were 3 other individuals that worked with me the first day. Turi, who was my witness, worked with me on the first day, and then there were 2 other individuals who helped me.
You worked with her?
Yes.
Step up here.
And what we did is that the seniors that did specify which picture they wanted,
She did that.
Right. The numbers that did indicate, we pulled those pictures. And
Hers
then,
did.
And then the 3/4 of the seniors who did not specify, we were advised by Mr. Sonamaker to pick the top photo from each envelope.
Okay, but she picked which photo she wanted. It's on the back of her photo, that's the one she picked.
If Mr. Sonamaker had a meeting with her and she specified, he did not let me know. We did divide up the pictures between me and the other 3 individuals that worked with me, and since we were working very fast, no, I don't know who handled Audra's picture.
Do you remember who handled her picture?
No, I going through, it takes you about 2 minutes to do each one, and you don't even look at their names really. You just look to see if the barcode was there. And
now, Miss Rice, other than the fact that you have a history with Miss Gardner over you.
Correct. In which...
What other evidence do you have that she purposely picked the wrong picture to put in your yearbook?
Okay, this is what
here we go.
The process I went through.
I know the process you went through. You picked the right picture. You put the right thing on the back. Just tell me what proof you have that she purposely selected the wrong picture. Do you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, just a minute.
Your Honor, on the last day of school, she was pestering me to get me to sign her yearbook.
Who was?
Miss Gardner. And she said that, do you see Audra's picture? And I said, yeah. And she laughed hysterically as if to say that she did it herself. She said, ha ha ha, did you see how funny it looked?
So she just laughed and said, did you see her picture? Don't tell me as if yours in your mind. What she said was, did you see Audra's picture? And she laughed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you do that?
No, I did not. I would like to add that...
Just a minute.
Okay, sorry.
Sure you did. Sure you did. That's exactly what you said to him. Don't give me a lot of baloney.
Can I please add something?
Add it.
Okay, I did not say that to him. I do feel that...
What did you say to him? I'm not interested in what you feel. What did you say to him?
Actually, from what I remember, there was a lot of goofing off. There was other people there. Jacob did run into a fellow who did want to fight him.
What do you remember about the picture?
What do I remember about the picture?
About the conversation about the picture.
There was no conversation about a picture. I feel that he's not a credible witness. I do have a restraining order against this gentleman.
You do?
Yes.
Can I see
right
it?
Here.
I also have notes that she wrote displaying her disgust for Audra. This is going to be a quote directly from Sarah. I saw Audra at lunch, and if it weren't for my heavy bag and a cigarette, her ass would have been down. She continues to say about how upset she is, and then she says, I don't really mind. It's not you that I care about and don't want to hurt, it's them.
Let me see the restraining order. Curious about this. He looks like butter would melt in his mouth, right? Why did you get an order of protection against him?
I was being stalked. There were times when he's tried to strangle me. Coming to my house late at night, I felt very unsafe.
And you had a hearing on this, a trial?
Yes, I did.
Were you represented by an attorney at this trial?
He did not show up.
I was in Utah.
What were you doing in Utah?
I went on a road trip with my parents.
You mean you knew you had a court date and you didn't show up? That requires an answer, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
That was pretty stupid. That was pretty stupid. How old are you?
18.
Did you tell your parents you had a court date?
Yeah, when we were in Utah.
Oh, the more I spend time here, the more I love my children.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I believe, no matter what you tell me, that you selected a picture of her different from the one that she had selected just to give her an old zinger.
And later today,
well, he didn't give us much of a chance really to get out of the way. He used his car as a battering ram.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Audra Sullivan Rice is suing her classmate and editor of their high school yearbook, Sarah Gardner, claiming Sarah deliberately selected an ugly photo for her senior portrait. Sarah claims it wasn't her job to pick the photos.
The picture of you in the yearbook isn't terrible. As a matter of fact, I think I like it a little bit better than the one you selected. I do, however, think that there was some design to get that picture in there. It just seems too coincidental to me that she's in charge of the yearbook, she can't stand you, you pick a picture and a different picture goes in there, right? And there's all just too much coincidence that doesn't sit comfortably with me. But if she picked the wrong picture, truth of the matter is, I think she picked a better one. So I don't think you should be that discouraged. Okay. And Miss Gardner, there's a certain thing about misusing your authority. If anything, you should have been far more careful about selecting her picture as making sure it was the right picture.
Right, but there was no specification.
Oh, yes, there was. You keep saying there was no specification, and I'm telling you.
There were a lot of seniors who did come to my attention that they did specifically pick a picture, and then they
look at the back of the picture. Would you hands on the picture? I don't want them to touch each other. Right? What does that say back there?
Actually, I did not.
I didn't ask you what you see. I asked you what it said back there.
Yearbook selection.
Okay. Bottom line is, I believe, no matter what you tell me, that you selected a picture of her different from the one that she had selected just to give her an old zinger. The fact that you happen to have picked one that wasn't terrible and that I really think is much nicer is really not the issue. It's not, you're not damaged $3,500 worth, madam.
What I wanted to
You're not
do,
damaged $3,000 by this photograph. You damaged maybe a lesson. So what's a lesson? Less than $100, Bird.
That's good.
$100 for the plaintiff, that's all.
Party's ice cream. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Party's on Gorman versus Siemens. Step forward, please.
Mike Gorman says, while attempting to retrieve a package during a UPS strike, picketer Don Siemens pounded his sign on the hood of his car, causing severe damage.
All right, Mr. Gorman, you were expecting an important package that was to arrive, unfortunately, during the UPS strike.
That's correct.
And you had to go and pick that package up at the warehouse, correct?
Yes.
Your complaint alleges that when you went there, the defendant was one of the strikers, he was online, and he damaged your car.
That's correct.
You want to tell me what happened, please?
Yes, actually, I made arrangements to have the package shipped to me by FedEx because of...
Listen, sir, I got other cases to do today.
I understand.
At some point, you had to go and pick up your package at the UPS warehouse.
That's correct.
You're in your car.
I'm in my car.
And you're driving there.
Yes.
And what do you see?
The strikers were blocking the returning trucks, and I circled the block numerous times until the police finally arrived. I went in with the returning trucks, picked up my package, and when I left, I knew it was going to be trouble. And several of the strikers were marching very close and impeding my exit. And they started jumping on the front of my car and on the trunk. They were pounding on the windows, cursing at me, chanting slogans. I inched along, and the police finally came over and removed the people on my car.
They were actually on your car?
Oh, yes, ma'am. At least 8 of them.
Okay.
On the front and the back. And Mr. Siemens was the last to be removed. And when he exited, he took his sign and pounded it into my hood. And I immediately stopped the car, and the police separated us, and he went over and took our names and information.
What was the cost of the damage to your car?
Approximately $500.
You have the bill?
I do.
All right, Mr. Siemens.
I think he's living in a fantasy world. I can't believe this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you interrupting me? Two people can't talk at the same time. And when my mouth is moving, you have to be quiet.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mike Gorman is suing UPS worker Don Siemens for damaging his car with a picket sign during a strike. Don says he was only trying to get out of the way when Mike drove through the picket line, nearly running him over.
You're on strike.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
You're circling.
We were walking the sidewalk there, yes, back and forth.
So tell me what happened.
Well, he didn't give us much of a chance, really, to get out of the way. He used his car as a battering ram and knocked us, some of us out of the way, myself onto the hood, and trying to get off of the hood the best I could. I guess my sign hit his car somehow.
What were you doing in front of his car?
Well, we were on the picket line.
No, what were you, not we.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What were you doing?
I'm sorry.
Listen, you're walking around with a sign, Mr. Siemens.
Back and
You
forth.
see his car. You have several choices. You can either move to the side and make way for him to leave.
He didn't give us enough time, Your
No.
Honor. No, I didn't, honest. There was about 20 of us out there, 15 to 20 of us. And he hit 5 or 6 of us. Jason was there to contest it.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay, we were ordered by our union to go on strike. We're all in front of the building striking. The plaintiff comes, he did not even slow down. He almost hit 3 of us when he was coming in, did not slow down. I don't know where he's getting this, oh, I inched in, inched out. He didn't do anything. Okay, so when he's coming out, we have more people come out to block him because this is ridiculous, the fact that he came in and almost ran us over. I mean, we're pedestrians.
Just a second.
All right.
You just said a very important thing, sir. You said you had a lot more people out there to block him. That's what you just said.
Well, we set up.
Just a sec. Hey, that's exactly what he said, sir. He said there were people blocking him, cursing at him. Right? Mr. Cronky.
We were telling him to stop.
You were telling him to stop what?
Because I was right in front of his car, and we were telling him to stop because he was running me over. His bumper was pushing right into my legs.
Why didn't you just walk away, Mr. Cronky?
Because he was already running into me at the time, Your Honor.
No, Mr. Cronky. My recollection of the UPS strike was that there were managers driving the trucks, correct?
Well, while the policemen were there.
Yeah, yes, is that correct?
Yes, management.
And is it also correct that they were being heckled, for want of a better term, as the trucks were going in and out?
We were just stopping them from doing their course of business. We were
Just
setting
a
up a
second.
picket line.
You were stopping them
Yes, we were not
from going into their building.
Isn't that the whole purpose of a picket line?
Yes.
Isn't that the purpose of a picket line?
Just
No, sir.
We're disrupting.
No, sir. That's not the purpose of a picket line. Let me ask you this question, sir. Do you believe that if this gentleman was going to pick up his package and he had a clear path to go
He
into...
didn't have a clear path, Your Honor.
Are you interrupting me? Two people can't talk at the same time. And when my mouth is moving, you have to be quiet. Do you think that if this man who was doing nothing more than going to pick up his package, got there, saw your picket line, and there was a path for him to go in, pick up his package, and come out, we would be standing here today? No.
He went in about 30 miles an hour also into the driveway. And on the way out, there were more pickets for him to go through.
There was,
what right does that give him to run into us, Your Honor?
I don't believe, sir, that he ran into you. I believe that you were blocking him. That's what he just said. They brought out a whole bunch of other people to block him.
I believe
that's what your
I was a
witness just said to me, Mr. Siemens.
We walked back and forth the street. That's what a picket line's for.
I believe at the time I was a pedestrian and an automobile hit me. Is there something right with that?
That's what you believe?
Yeah, what right?
That's what you believe? How many people were out there on the picket line by the time he came out?
Approximately 20.
Okay, so there are 20 people, and he's one person in his car. Do you think that that's intimidating with people yelling and screaming and cursing? You think that that's intimidating? You can't tell me that you weren't yelling at the people who were going into...
No, ma'am.
Mr. Siemens.
We were not yelling.
He wasn't there for any other purpose than to pick up his package.
We had no
and
idea.
run over a few people. That's all right.
Well, run over a few people.
I don't see how that gives him the right to run over, to hit us.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You have no right to inhibit him from going to pick up his package in any way. What if it contains insulin for his baby that he needed? You didn't give a damn. It didn't make any difference. What was in this package?
Excuse me.
It could have been penicillin. It could have been a heart transplant. It could have been anything else. The fact that it was, what was it, computer equipment or something?
It was an item I needed for my business.
Your business was impeding business as usual for UPS. That's a legitimate thing to do as far as a strike is concerned, letting people know you're on strike, that you have a grievance. He's an individual citizen, and he has a right to go and pick up his property. And if he chooses to go through your picket line, he chooses to do that. That's his choice. And you have no right to impede that. You owe him $461.85, which was the cost to fix his car. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Judge Judy.
Now, this is case number 274 on the calendar in the matter of Asada versus Dacey. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat.
Well, I have really two complaints here. One is your complaint, sir, against her. You're suing her because you say she purposely kicked your car, causing damage to it.
Yes.
And I have your complaint against him for several $1,000s. I think you're suing for $3,000 because you say he assaulted you.
Yes.
From what I gather from these papers, you two children have a child.
Yes.
And how old is this child?
She's 16 months.
How old are you?
23.
And how old were you when you had this baby?
Oh, it was right after my 16th birthday.
Were you
Or
living
right
at
after my 17th birthday. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Were you living at home then?
I was living with him, and then like about 2 weeks before I had the baby, I was getting no support from him, so I moved back in with my mom to get some support. Then right after I had the baby, then I moved back in with him.
You live at home?
Yes, I moved back there about 4 months ago.
So you live with your mother?
Yes.
And father?
No.
Just with your mother?
Yes.
Actually, I took responsibility for her for 3 years when her mother didn't want responsibility of her anymore, gave up custody of her, and I basically took her in for 3 years. When she was 9 months pregnant, her mother said that she didn't want her to move back home. She said that there was shelters out there that would take care of a teenage mother.
What'd you have problems with your mom about?
Just normal, rebellious. I wanted to go out. She wanted me.
You have a
not
drug
go out.
problem?
No.
Never?
No.
You hesitated for a minute.
I have done, yes, I have done drugs before in the past.
Know that. And you, sir?
Drug problem? No.
Yeah. Have you done any drugs?
No.
Was she doing drugs when she was living with you?
Yes, she was smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm. What about when she was pregnant?
I don't believe so. Not that I can remember.
What
no.
about after the baby was born?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you separated, and then this incident occurred with your car. You want to tell me your version of it, sir?
Well, I was going to pick up a friend which lives close by to where she lives. And on the way back, we happened to see her walking with my daughter. So I stopped to, see my daughter. And
what time was this, sir?
It was about 9:45 p.m. She lives in a kind of a bad neighborhood. I was concerned for the welfare of my child. She said that she never walks the baby at that time, but obviously she does. When she came over to us, she asked us where we were going. I said we were going to go out. And she spit on us. She spit on me and him through my car window.
Let's take this step by step. And I want you to understand something. I'm very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they keep me here. Not because I'm gorgeous. Right, Bird?
Well, that's a good enough reason, Judge.
I stopped my car. She came over to where my car was. I opened the door to the car, got out, saw my daughter.
What did you say to her?
I said, what are you doing with the baby out at this time at night?
And what? Okay, so right away we got a problem. You're saying to her, what are you doing outside with the baby? And what did she say to you?
She said that she was going to call me at a payphone across the street.
That was her answer?
Mm-hmm.
So far, is that correct?
No.
No. So then what happened?
So then after I, said goodbye to my daughter, I tried to leave. I got into my car. She put the baby stroller in front of my car door so I could not shut it. So I calmly got out and, moved the stroller away, shut my door. She said, where are you going? Going out. She spit on us. And then when I was pulling out, she started kicking my car.
What kind of car was this?
It's a Chevy Cavalier.
Okay, and I assume you have pictures to show me.
Yes.
Could I see them, please?
I also have an estimate.
I'll see that too. Okay. Now let's hear your version of the events and what you say happened on that evening.
Okay, normally I don't take my daughter out that late, but she was still up. I was going to get a treat for us from the store, about 200 feet from my apartment door to the Circle K across the street, okay? Walked to the store, got my things, was halfway across the street from the store and my apartment complex when I see him drive by. He makes a U-turn, turns into my apartment complex, and gets out and says, what are you doing with my daughter out this late, blah, blah, blah. Just starts totally harassing me. Yeah, I said, I'm not doing this in front of my daughter. So I start walking away. That's when he grabs me by my hair. I didn't know he was coming, because it was all quiet. He just grabs me by my hair and proceeds to just grab me by my arm, like kind of drag me on the ground. I skinned my knee. Then I got up, started to leave again. He kicks me in the stomach. I lose my wind, I gather myself up, and then by then I grab the stroller, start running from my apartment. I yell back, I am calling the police, you're not getting away with this one. He yells, I have 2 witnesses that say I didn't touch you. Okay, the whole time this was happening, this guy over here sitting in the chair, he was laughing. He sees a girl getting beat up, he's laughing, okay?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby who happens to have 2 morons for parents.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada is suing the mother of his child, 18-year-old Karen Dacey, claiming she kicked and damaged his car during an argument. Karen says Scott is abusive towards her and denies kicking his car.
So did you go up and call the police?
Yes, my mom was just going to bed, whatever. She said, Karen, I really don't want to deal with this tonight. So she asked me to make the phone call from across the street at the Circle K. I have a police report. They came out and...
You mean your mother told you, don't call from my house, go across the street? Is that what your mother told you? I'm asking you a question. Your mother told you, don't call from the house.
She didn't say don't. I could. She didn't... I told her I was going to call across the street. No, she didn't say. She was just saying, why do we have to deal with this? Why does this always have to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, just you know, I was mad. I was like, just forget about it. I'll just call from across the street. I just don't want to bring her into any more. I've had so many problems with him. Everybody has to witness it around me. That's why she's here. I lost my job because she didn't want to witness this anymore. Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Teresa Garner.
You said she was your nanny for a while. Do you mean she was your babysitter?
She was a babysitter. I have 3 children. I met Karen through Scott. He used to work at the mall that we had. We have a plant rental and maintenance company, and we did the plants. I met Scott there. After Michelle was born, she didn't want to go back to work at Panda Express, a fast food place, so I gave her a job where she could have the baby there.
Where she could have the baby at your place of business?
Right, where she was taking care of my kid, she could have the baby. Several times, Your Honor, she's come over crying. I took the baby away from these two in one incident because they're fighting all the time in front of my house. I told him neither one of them could have the baby. When they were acting like that, he had her outside, was trying to push her in the car, same thing, pulling her hair, calling her names. The verbal abuse went on forever. Little codes on her beeper, 187, which I guess is murder or something, and all this other kind of junk.
Have you ever seen him put his hands on her?
Yes, I have.
Sit down.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Absolutely. Step up here. Tell me your name.
Kevin Meimersdorf. When this occurred that night, also when she was all trying to get him away from the car to tell him, like wanting to talk to him privately, and he was like, "No, I got these witnesses. You can say whatever you have to say right here by the car."
You think that that's helpful to him?
Well,
what you just told me?
Well, yeah. I'd like to say something.
You think that that's helpful?
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Where were you going?
We're going to my brother's house to pick him up.
And where does he live?
He lives on Chop and Boulder.
And how far is that from where the defendant lives?
I'd say maybe a quarter mile, if that.
Mm-hmm. And is there another way of getting there other than passing by the front of her apartment complex?
There is. Yes, there is. Yes,
Good.
there is.
So you could have gone a different route.
Right.
Who was driving?
He was.
So yet he chose to drive by her apartment complex. Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when he got out of the car, the first thing he said to her is, "What are you doing outside at 8:45 with the baby?"
Right.
But he didn't say it in that kind of tone, did he?
No. No. I mean, well, he just exactly the tone what you just said. What are you
think
doing?
so? Is that what you remember, sir? Is that as true as everything else
Yes,
that you're going
ma'am.
to tell me today?
Yes,
that in a very calm tone, he said to her, "Why are you out with the baby at 8:45?" Is that the tone?
Well, it might have been a little bit, a little bit more higher than that. I mean, definitely.
Might
I mean,
have been,
not a soft tone, but I mean, he's like, "What are you doing at this late at night?" Basically, at 9:30 at night, in this neighborhood.
And when he said that to her, sir, was there any profanity dotting his words? Like, did he say, "What the blank are you doing
No,
blank out at this blank hour"? Does that sound, ring a bell?
No, ma'am.
So far, I'm not getting the ring of truth from you, sir.
You're getting everything, all the truth.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because it does, I mean, I'm not saying she's terrific.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, she's not terrific.
Right.
Right? And I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby,
right,
who happens to have 2 morons for parents, right? Her, because she doesn't know whether she's here or there or where she's going to be or what she's going to do or anything else. She's a baby. And you, who
Right.
enjoy a reasonable order of visitation from 2 in the afternoon till 8 o'clock at night, 4 days a week.
I haven't been able to enjoy it because I haven't been getting my visitation.
Well, then you go to court, sir, and you deal with it.
I am. I'm in the process of doing
Then
that.
then that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to go around
didn't-
where she's living and confront her.
Oh, but that was not my main priority to go
I
over
didn't
there.
ask you whether it was your main priority. It shouldn't have been any priority. What you do is, if you've had periods of domestic violence and negative interaction with her, you stay away from her.
I've never, but she comes to my work also and harasses me there.
Just a second. I don't doubt that she does that.
And calls my house and comes by my house.
Listen to me. I don't doubt that she does that. Because I think she's a flake. I do.
She is.
I believe she's a flake. This lady knows she's a flake, right?
Young.
Young.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Flaky, young, too young to have an 18, to
That's
be
right.
responsible for an 18-month-old baby.
I agree.
No question about that. There is also no question in my mind, sir, that this evening wasn't as you have indicated to me, that you were just driving by to go pick up a friend and all of a sudden you saw her. You went by her apartment complex, and it was the wrong thing to do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you've taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada claims the mother of his child, Karen Dacey, kicked his car. Karen says she has a restraining order because Scott is abusive.
Mr. Azada, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. You screw around with a teenager and make a baby with her, and that doesn't mean that your life's going to be easy. It's going to be harder. You have a child, and if you think that she's incapable of taking care of this child, and you may be right, and you may be a more appropriate custodial parent, the way to deal with it is through the court, not in the street at 9:45.
I feel, I'm concerned about the welfare of my daughter. That is the main
Then, sir,
priority
you have to deal with that through the courts.
I've been dealing with it for 5 months and I haven't got one bit of satisfaction. I haven't even got a court date yet.
The court system didn't make your baby. Yeah. Judge didn't get in there that night. Right? You did. And you were old enough to have known better.
Yes.
You were, in the eyes of the law, an adult. She was a minor in the eyes of the law. So, when you went to the police, did they arrest him?
No, he was long gone.
And you, sir, did you make a police report?
No, I kind of just went home because I didn't want to deal with her anymore.
Did you ever pull her hair?
No.
Never?
No.
You mean she's lying when she says she saw you pull her hair?
She's also lying about her taking my child. She's never, I don't even trust her with my child over there because she smokes just as much dope as she does.
Can I say something in my defense? No,
I don't think she's capable of taking care of her own kids.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Well, I think that you two young people better decide that you're going to straighten up your lives because you made a baby and the baby is the only innocent in this situation.
This is a picture of what looks exactly like a cigarette burn or...
And I've also...
Shh! Would you let her finish?
On my daughter, when she came home from visiting with him, I changed her diaper into her pajamas right away, and I noticed this. He smokes, his whole family smokes, okay? And about the drugs and smoking, whatever, I have not even done any drugs since I've been with him. And the
Madam,
reason why
let me tell you something. A, he never burned your baby with a cigarette. Never happened. You could have a picture there, you could have 20 pictures there. I'm telling you, I've been in this business for 1/4 century. This man never purposefully injured that child, nor did he permit anybody else to purposefully injure that child. Now, he may have done lots of negative things to you, but he never purposely hurt his daughter. So you may be able to convince some other family court judge or some other moron that he did with the picture that you're going to show him. But I'm telling you, he never purposely hurt your daughter.
How would you know that?
How would I know it? Because I'm very smart. And I'm smarter than you'll be if you live to be 500. And I'm also prepared to tell you that you do smoke dope, and you have smoked dope more recently than from the time you first met him. And if I sent you today to have a hair follicle test, I guarantee you that that hair follicle test would bear me out. And if you are willing to go, we will make the arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test, because the hair follicle test will establish when the last time, if you've smoked drugs or taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Would you like me to make the arrangements right now, and I can have a hair follicle test done right now?
All I have to say
Just
to that is, Not unless he's getting one. This guy has done more than
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Why am I going to show something it was less than 6 months ago because me and him only broke up 3.5 months ago. Why am I going to show what is wrong with me or whatever if this guy's sitting here, oh, I don't do drugs. This guy is the king of selling drugs, doing drugs, whatever.
Listen to me.
So why do we care about what I'm doing?
Why? There's a very easy answer to that question, madam. Because right now you are the primary custodial...
What I've done.
Hey! Right now you are the primary custodial parent of an 18-month-old child. That's why it's more important. And so I asked you a simple question. I said, do you want me to make arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test? Your answer was no. Good. This is the judgment of the court. The judgment of the court is as follows. I am awarding the plaintiff $585 to fix his car. I am awarding the defendant $585 for the assault. That's a wash. Get out of here.
Parties are excused. Step out. You'll get him.
Judge Judy continues in a
calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Lewis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Thomas, your lawsuit alleges that the defendant filed false allegations against you of sexual harassment, causing you, at least temporarily, to lose your job and suffer all kinds of emotional trauma and stress and embarrassment.
Yes.
Did you work together in the same office?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me how you knew her.
We cordially met in the lobby area, and...
in the lobby of a building where you both worked?
Yes.
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm in the security field.
So you were a security officer?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And, from time to time we spoke, and then every now and then we went to lunch, socialized, and talked everything. And everything was pretty cool. There was a situation...
There came a time when you alleged that you lent money to the defendant.
Yes.
And that precipitated her making these allegations against you.
Yes.
Well, tell me about that, sir.
Okay. Well, as I said, she was having some problems. And she asked my assistance as far as loaning her some money for a motel that she had wanted to stay in to relocate from the current place she was at. And so, I went and I assisted her in that matter. She stayed there for a couple of weeks.
How much money did you actually loan her?
Well, it wasn't a direct cash flow. I utilized a credit card, so I would be able to keep a record in the future.
How much?
$250.
Okay. $250.
Yes, $250.88.
Okay, so you helped her out with the motel from moving from one place to another.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Then at that time her apartment was ready, and she again asked my assistance to help her relocate to the apartment. Well, she didn't have the funds required to rent out the truck, so she asked if I could utilize my credit to rent the truck out, and then once we've completed the move, she would reimburse me of the initial truck use funds.
And how much was that altogether?
Altogether, that was $57.24 for the truck and $6.25 for gas to refuel the truck.
Now, did she pay you back any of this money?
No.
So there came a time when you started to ask her for the money?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Okay, the disagreement arose around the time when we were trying to negotiate a way to return the truck. Well, apparently she was agitated because I didn't want to loan her my credit card and so she can return the truck and then return the credit card back to me. So that pretty much fueled the disagreement. Well, to pretty much separate myself, I said, well, go ahead, return the money that you owed me. This is the money that you owed me, and we'll just go our separate ways. She responded in a threatful manner, basically stating that, if you don't leave me alone, you're going to regret that you ever met me. So I left it alone Sunday, and Monday morning I called her again, once again trying to see if we can't negotiate this in a mature manner. She wouldn't speak to me, so what I did is I conjured up a letter to her, and just basically broke down everything that she had owed me.
Okay, so you sent her a letter.
Yes.
When did she make these allegations against you of sexual harassment?
I sent the letter to her Monday, and the allegations were brought to my attention that Thursday.
Okay. To make a long story short,
Yes.
the charges were subsequently all dismissed.
Yes.
But you had to be transferred to a different location. You took a decrease in pay according to your papers. Is that
Yes,
right?
what had happened is that they had pretty much put me in rover status, where I worked at certain assignments for the going price that they were
So
paying
you earned
officers.
less, Mr.
Yes.
Thomas. You earned less. But you're suing her for $5,000, clearly much more than this. And the reason you're suing her for $5,000 is because you say she wrongfully made these accusations against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Let me hear from you.
Well, Your Honor, first of all, we did work in the same building. When I met John, I told him from the beginning that I'm not looking for anyone. Okay, I moved out here from another state. I came out in January. I secured a job in February. Then we met, I think, in March. He would come up to me, give me candy, walk with me while I was on break, and I told him strictly that I just wanted a platonic friendship and nothing more. John continued to, everywhere I was, he seemed to automatically show up. He was a friend to me. You know, we went out a couple times to the movies. I never asked John for any help of any type of monetary source because I make 3 times more money than he makes, okay? I never asked John for any money. He insisted that he knew where I was staying at a motel downtown. I was happy with that. I knew I was going to stay there until I secured an apartment, which is what I did. But the reason he wanted me to move because he did not have access to me the way that he wanted access to me, because it was a security building and there was no visitors allowed in the building. So he suggested to me that I move to another motel in Culver City.
This is the first hotel that you were in?
This is the first hotel that I was at. This is the hotel I planned to stay at until I found my apartment. He knew I was looking for an apartment. He knew I was looking for a car. He went around and got numbers for apartments. Oh, you should move here. He even went to his complex, suggested I go there, and I decided the same day not to move there because he was...
Stop for a second.
Okay.
You sound like a very intelligent, together lady. Right? And you just told me that you were really happy with where you were staying, and you were going to stay there until you found a permanent apartment.
Right.
But you moved.
Right.
Into a different motel.
Right.
One that he was happier with.
Right. I moved.
Why?
Because it was closer to my job. Right now, I had an hour-and-a-half commute from downtown to Westwood.
So?
And I decided to take his offer up because it was nicer, it was closer to my job.
Fine.
Okay.
And he laid out some money for you.
No, he did not. I was paying a certain weekly amount of rent by the week where I was. I had that money. Only thing he had to put with the money was another $40.
Whether it was $40 or 40 pennies.
Okay.
According to him, it was $250.88. According to you, it was $40. You just told me that you earned 3 times as much money as he did. Why in the world would you take $40 from him? Why?
Because I did not have the money at the time. I was between pay periods.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I have a greeting card from her, and the title says, "To the man of my dreams."
Once I dreamed of someone special. Now I know that I was dreaming of you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Thomas says his former friend Denise Lewis falsely accused him of sexual harassment. Denise says John is angry because their friendship never turned into romance.
Now, when did you make this report of sexual harassment?
After the week after I moved into my apartment.
Why?
Because he tried to force himself on me after we moved the refrigerator and the bedroom furniture into my apartment.
Well, tell me about that, madam.
Okay, after the things were moved into the apartment, he laid down on we put everything in the living room because I had to paint the bedroom. He laid down on the mattress and he called me in there and he threw me down on the mattress and started making sexual moves on me. And it took me about a couple minutes to push him off of me, and I asked him to leave.
And he left?
After some screaming and yelling, and yes, he did.
What kind of screaming and yelling?
I was screaming to get out of my apartment, that you don't live here.
And he left?
After some time, and he left when he got ready to leave.
So that's when you filed a complaint of sexual harassment against him?
Is not only for that reason, was because the Saturday morning when he was supposed to come back and get the truck, I asked him to leave. We had an argument. I asked him to leave.
So you still had the truck?
The truck is still there. He has the keys to the truck.
Okay. So he said, so he had his car and he wanted you to help him take the truck back.
Right.
And what happened then?
I didn't open the door for him.
Why?
Because I was upset with him because of what he had tried to do. Okay, he never came to me and asked me to try and work things out, to try and say, okay, I owe you this money, let's try and make some type of arrangements. The next thing I knew, he had left a letter on the counter of where I work, and it was a bill for how much he assumed that I owe him.
So tell me when you made this allegation of sexual harassment, after you got the bill?
No, I made it like a few days later because he was calling and harassing me at work.
He was
for like
calling and asking you for what?
He was calling, he said he wanted to get together and talk. And I said, I don't want anything else to do with you because of your behavior, because you have been harassing me.
When did you make that statement to him?
I made it on Monday. And I asked him not to call me again, and that I will pay him his money.
So did you pay him the money?
No, I did not. Because,
why?
Because he kept harassing me.
Just a minute, why didn't you pay him the money? Maybe if you paid him the money, he would stop harassing you. Maybe if you paid him the bill, he would feel as if he wasn't so used.
Yeah.
And then he would leave you alone.
Yeah, well, maybe if he had come to me as an adult and not someone threatening me with gang violence and I'm going to get the Bloods to kill you and this and that, maybe if would have come to me in an appropriate manner, I would have been more than happy to settle with him, just like I tried to call him 2 weeks ago. And I asked him, why did you file this lawsuit against me? And I said, can we come to some kind of agreement because I want this to go away? And his comment was, after several moments of silence, at 27 years old, was, you started it.
Well, Miss Lewis, you started it. Let me tell you something. I'm a woman, and I take allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace very seriously. But I resent it when women use allegations of sexual harassment as one-upmanship. And I'm telling you right now, the story that's coming through my head is an older lady with a lot more experience has a guy 5, 6 years younger than she is who is clearly smitten with her. And what's coming out of her mouth is, no, no, yes, yes. No, no, yes, yes.
No.
You let him move you into another apartment? You're a smart lady. All you had to do was say, I'm happy where I am, John. I don't mind having coffee with you when we're here. You seem like a nice young man, but, you know, this is not a romantic thing. So you let him help you out once. And instead of doing the nice thing, the right thing, by totally cutting him off so that you fared him, you're not playing mind games with his head. You call him again when you need help. So he's saying to himself, she really likes me. I don't care what she says. She's letting me rent a truck with her and move her stuff into her apartment and help her place the furniture where it is. So clearly, she may be saying no, no, but her eyes are saying yes, yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She strategically planned it to where I lost out on a promotion. I lost out on a raise.
Oh.
And, you know,
from $5 to $7. Wow.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Security guard John Thomas is suing Denise Lewis for defamation after she accused him of sexual harassment.
You're in your apartment. The furniture and the refrigerator are all set. Then you want no part of him. Well, he doesn't know that, so then he calls you and says, now I feel used, now I want my money. Your response was to file allegations of sexual harassment against him. I don't hear any sexual harassment, madam. He moved you into your apartment. He thought you were encouraging him. He left when you told him to leave. You may say you yelled and screamed, but I don't believe that there was any kind of attempted rape there. I don't believe that for 1 second. And your response was to try to injure him in his profession, which was a security guard. That's not fair.
Just because two people are friends does not mean that, okay, just because one party wants to go forward with a relationship and the other doesn't, that's not, I don't think that's encouraging.
Miss Lewis, you know that he wants romance and you don't. You don't use him.
He took advantage of me.
Oh, baloney.
He did. He knew that I lived out here by myself.
Nobody takes advantage of you, madam. I've known you for 5 minutes, and I can tell you right now, nobody takes advantage of you if you don't want that to happen. You took advantage of him. And the right thing to do was to let him know unequivocally from the beginning, this is not going anywhere, and not do anything to encourage him. Nothing to encourage him. And what you did was encourage him by continuing to allow him into your life. You have something you want me to hear? Is that why you brought that?
Yes, due to her statement, she says that she never made any attempt to encourage me or whatnot. Here I have a greeting card from her, dated April 4th, and the title says, "To the Man of My Dreams."
Can I see it?
So,
just a minute. Show this to the defendant and tell her if that signature looks familiar to her.
Yes, it does. This card was not intended for him.
Well, why don't you tell me how you got this card, sir?
She gave me the card around that time. This was the envelope that she gave it to me in.
Can I see it, please? Why don't you try to explain that to me, Miss Lewis? How did he come into possession of a card that wasn't meant for him? Why don't you try to tell me that?
He took it out of my briefcase when he was giving me a ride to work. That card was not intended for him.
Who was it intended for?
Someone else.
Someone else who also moved furniture?
No.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Once I dreamed of someone special, now I know that I was dreaming of you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I have never been interested in him. You know, I'm not interested in overweight men.
You used him, Miss Lewis. And then in order to get rid of him, you filed a complaint against him for sexual harassment. Oh, yes, that's exactly what you did. And you injured him. You injured him in his job. You had him move from his job. He suffered embarrassment. He suffered humiliation. And at least something else that I find equally as disturbing is we have finally reached a point in this country, at the end of this century, where we do not permit people of either sex to be sexually harassed in their workplace. And unfortunately, it's because of ladies like you that people look at these lawsuits and wonder if they are all real. That diminishes the real allegations of sexual abuse and of sexual harassment in the workplace. It's not supposed to be used as a hammer to solve all the problems that you have. It's supposed to be used sparingly and when it's true.
You don't know that it's not true?
Oh, I know that it's not true, madam. I know that you used him.
That's not true.
You used him. You knew he was smitten with you. You used him. And when you were finished with him and he wouldn't leave you alone, in order to get rid of him so that you didn't have to look at him anymore, you filed an allegation of sexual harassment against him that was ultimately investigated and dismissed because you have been reinstated, correct?
And it was not the first of its kind.
I haven't asked you about your history either. Right? Whether this is a modus operandi for you. We understand each other, Miss Lewis? I am awarding you $2,500, Mr. Thomas. And I hope that it serves as a lesson. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out on the calendar in the matter of Robinson versus Castro. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Robinson, your complaint alleges that you were hired as a cashier in a restaurant that was managed by the defendant, that you were sexually harassed by the defendant in the restaurant, and when you complained about it to the owner, you were fired. Is that what this case is about?
Yes, Your Honor.
When were you hired by this restaurant?
I was hired November 20th, 1997.
And who hired you?
The owner of the restaurant did.
When did you first meet the defendant?
I met him the day that I was hired at the restaurant. I met him that morning. The owner was there. He hired me, and he told me that he wouldn't be there during the afternoon, but Sergio would be there to help me if I needed anything.
And what were your duties in the restaurant?
My duties were to run the register, take phone orders, take the in-store orders, the way you had it set up. When you come in, you place your order, sit down, and your food would be brought to you. I would take those orders. I would if they needed help running the food out, I would do that. Occasionally, I would wait the tables.
Tell me about this first experience that you had with sexual harassment by the defendant.
Okay, well, when I first started, he would come over to me while doing my job and pat me on the back.
Slowly.
Okay, he would pat me on the back. That would excite me a little bit since I had just started.
How would he pat you on the back?
Can I show you on my husband? I don't want to be
Who is
charged
this?
or anything. That's my husband.
Stand up, sir. You could show me on your husband.
Okay, he would just come over to me and pat me on the back and things like that when I was doing a good job, and I didn't think nothing of it. I thought he was trying to boost my ego. And from there, it went to, you're gonna have to stand up again. It went to like just a pat on the butt. It kind of made me feel awkward at that point. Didn't say nothing. It just went from like to a rub on the butt. A lot of times he'd just stand there and just put his arm around and rub my back when I was talking to a customer.
Did you sit down? You were very good.
Thank you.
Did you tell him that made you feel uncomfortable?
I did tell him at one point. I said that I'm just here for a business-like environment. That's it. I told him, I said, you are married, I'm married. I have a daughter, you have a daughter. I said, I am in no way, shape, or form attracted to you, nor do I have any feelings for you.
At what point did you say this to him?
This was about 2 days after I worked there. At first, I didn't want to say anything to him, lose my job, so I'd go home several times and tell my husband, look, this is happening at the restaurant. I just told him. He said, well, confront him. Tell him you don't want him to do it. So I told him, and after telling him it didn't do anything, so I called the owner at his home and told him what was going on. He just told me he had never had a complaint on Sergio as long as he'd been open, which was 2 weeks, and that he didn't believe me. He told me, take a couple days off, I'll call you back. Well, I took 2 or 3 days off, never called me back, so I called him at his other restaurant. He owns 3 restaurants. I called him at the big restaurant, and I told him, I said, look, something has got to be done. So I'm feeling very, very insecure working there. And he just told me, I'll talk to him, I'll talk to him, I'll talk to him.
Had you gone into work?
No, after I told him what was going on, I told him, I'm on my way into work right now. I said, okay, so I'm going to go into work. And he said, no, I don't need you. He said, I've got someone else to fill your place for right now. After the second, I hadn't heard anything, and I said I went to the other restaurant. He told me to meet him there. I picked up my paycheck, asked him if he had talked to Sergio. He said, yes, he did. Sergio had no clue what I was talking about. Now, I do want to bring this to your attention, Your Honor. It's not only me, but 3 other girls. The other 2, at this point, don't want to stand up for ourselves. Our town is so little. My reputation is ruined at this point. So
Why is your reputation ruined?
It's talk constantly. People tell me that I'm just trying to get money out of him, and I've got harassing phone calls from people that I used to work with. At one point, my husband and I decided to go through a divorce because he wanted to say something to Sergio about this. I just told him, look, just let it go, let it go. And as I said, it's caused me a lot of problems. I have a 7-month-old baby. I can't even support at this point. That social services is trying to take him from me.
Why is social services trying to take your baby?
Because his parents can provide for her better than I can. We're living with his parents right now, and I haven't bought diapers, formula, nothing.
You mean the 2 of you were living with his parents?
We're living with him right now. We had planned to have a house by Christmas, but when I got fired, I didn't have the money to do so.
What kind of job does your husband have?
He works with his dad part-time doing carpentry. So
what does he do with the other part-time?
Stay home. He hasn't been working. I haven't worked since I was fired.
And when were you fired?
I was fired on December 2nd. That was when I told the owner that I wanted to work for the weekend. I said, can I work with you through the weekend? He just told me, he said, no, come and get your paycheck. And when I got there, that's when he didn't actually tell me that I was fired. He told me that he did not need help anymore. This was on December 2nd. But yet I've got a newspaper dated December 3rd, December 10th, and February 4th, where he is dying for help. He says a fast-paced restaurant, pizza person, and a hostess cashier. That was my job. So, Lisa, I've got these newspapers if you want to look at those.
I believe you.
So like I said, I mean...
Are you related to the owner of this restaurant, sir?
No, I'm a friend of him.
Friend of his?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me your version of the events after you met the plaintiff?
Okay, well, like she said, I did pat on the back like for a good job. Oh, she's doing good in the beginning. And about the other part, is the kitchen's pretty small in the restaurant. It is pretty tight, and she was told a few times to stay away from the kitchen. Just for like accidents, you know. I mean, I handle hot food, whatever, so I turn around, and I had the people right next to me. So I can't avoid touch somebody, because I can see on my back. I just turn around, and person is right there.
Right. So what you're saying to me is that maybe you couldn't avoid touching her because it was so small in the kitchen.
If I did touch, it was an accident. There's no meaning on it.
Now, you see, Mr. Castro, you have to start to think logically. Miss Robinson needed a job, right?
Yeah.
She came to work on time?
She did.
And she didn't leave early?
No.
And she didn't call in sick?
No.
So she was, in that way, a responsible employee.
The thing is, we never tell her we don't need you anymore. All right? We never tell her she was fired, or we tell her that she...
You just didn't give her hours?
Well, we cut her hours in order to try somebody else. Because we couldn't try somebody else when she's working.
Your Honor, my hours were cut from 40 hours to nothing.
Who were you?
I worked there.
And,
just a second.
She worked with us, and she can tell you
Nobody ever had 40 hours there. Sorry.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
So you saw somebody touch your wife's behind, and you didn't say anything.
It kind of got underneath my skin, but I'm just not much of a talker.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Restaurant hostess Dana Robinson complained about the cook Sergio Castro touching her. She says she was then asked not to return to work. Now she's suing for sexual harassment.
She needed the job. She has a child to support. So she was uncomfortable, and she called your boss. And you acknowledge that she called the owner, correct?
The owner told me that, and...
Good.
That she called.
That she called and complained?
Yeah. So I talked to her.
You're Beth?
I'm Beth.
Well, step up here for a second. Now, Beth, when were you hired by this restaurant?
At its inception.
So about 2 weeks before she started?
More than likely. I don't remember exactly how long I'd been there when Dana started.
Couple of weeks.
I do remember the first night that Dana worked there. And
just a second, I'm not finished with my question. What was your job?
My job is also to run the register. So when we have one behind the register, the other one could be on the floor if there were two of us. But there's really only, at this time of year, room for one person there. It's not that busy right now. However, is trying to find people who he can trust, who get along well with his other
Don't tell me what
workers.
he's trying to do.
That's all. That's why he doesn't give anyone 40 hours.
All right. Now,
she never gave 40 hours anyway.
She got 40 hours. How many hours did you work when you were there?
38.5 hours the first week that I worked there, and I talked to the owner's wife, and she said that was written on my check, was 38.8 hours.
Now, how were you hired for this job, Beth?
Well, I worked with a restaurant that is, well, the area we live in is really seasonal. I started the day that another restaurant opened down the road in Glenville.
Who did
and
you
I worked
know?
until it closed.
Who did you know?
I know. I've known him for years.
Okay, and that's why you were hired?
Partly.
Okay.
A lot of people know the owner.
Did you know the owner?
Yes, I had a seasonal job at a country club, and he come down there to help us one day. I worked in the kitchen there with all men, never had a problem with sexual harassment. And I told him at that point, I said, look, season's almost over, I need a job. He said, come talk to me. He's like, you know, I'll work you. He said, you do such a great job down here.
You all keep saying seasonal jobs. What kind of seasonal job is this? Is this a
It is
resort
spring,
community?
Summer, and fall. It's like
In the
a
winter,
small town on the mountains in North Carolina. A lot of people come from the season, and it's nice up there.
Your Honor, where we're from, you've got one Hardee's in town, okay? Who's trying to do fast food in a town that is used to sit down.
Fast food is
good food.
Listen to me. Fast food is not what she's complaining about. She's complaining about fast hands.
But nobody...
Right? She's complaining about fast hands. And Mr. Castro, you see, one of the things you acknowledge is that you sort of gave her a pat rub on the back. Listen to me. You're not supposed to put your hands on anybody. But if I believe you, then what you're telling me is she was doing a good job.
She was doing
And all of a sudden, she got her hours cut to nothing.
She didn't follow the rules. Don't go behind the line.
No, baloney. Come
No,
on.
it's not baloney. She keep going on there. The line is...
No,
You
just
wanna
a
look
second.
at the
She
picture?
keep-
The really small kitchen.
A really
there's no
small
room.
kitchen. I don't have to see the really small kitchen.
Well, I'm saying
When
no
did
room
you
to
tell
go
her,
back.
Mr. Castro, when did you tell her that she was violating the rules by going into the kitchen?
We told her a few times.
No,
Don't go
when
in the
did, not
kitchen.
we, when did you tell her?
Sometime in December, I don't remember.
Did he ever tell you not
I
to?
was fired the 2nd of December. How could he tell me sometime in December?
So,
my last day of working was after Thanksgiving.
Miss Robinson, listen to me.
All right.
Did he ever say to you, you're violating the rules by going into the kitchen?
At once he did tell me, he said, look, we're busy in the kitchen. You need to go back to where you were. And that was it.
Okay, and when did he tell you that?
This was maybe my 3rd or 4th day working there.
Okay.
What she could be doing?
And Mr. Castro, certain things have a ring of truth to it, sir. Now, I'm not suggesting that there was anything more than what you might refer to as playful patting.
In the shoulder. And she never mentioned anything to me.
No, no, no. She did not
shoulder.
complain to the boss because you were patting her on the shoulder like this and saying, great job. That's not what she was complaining about. She was offended enough to call the owner in a restaurant where she needed a job. There aren't lots of jobs in that community, so she's taken a certain risk by calling the owner and saying, I'm having trouble at this job, tell him to keep his hands to himself. Is that pretty much what you told him? Have you ever done that before in the 3 years that you've been working?
She said she liked it when he did that at first. And it was this, but I can't imagine him doing
Just a second. Hey.
It made her feel good.
Just a second.
About
I'm not
touching
talking to you.
All right, that's fine.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Did you ever tell Beth that he had touched you?
I didn't talk to Beth much for the simple fact, Beth,
No,
the
just
owner-
answer my question.
No, I didn't talk to Beth much because they...
So
all
you
three of
never
them
complained to her
just-
about this?
Never complained to her about it. I did complain to her
complained
about
about
her
me
trying to do my job.
That's
I
not
did
what I
complain
asked
about
you.
That, but as
It's
far
not
as
what I asked you.
complaining about Sergio touching me, no. I never talked to her about that.
So the answer is no.
That's what I said, no.
Good. No, you said it and it took too long for you to
Sorry.
say it. I got other things to do today.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
He gave her a pat, sir.
Yeah, you can
Yes,
see the part
you
of the
did.
shoulder.
No,
I
no,
pat
no,
in
no,
the
no, no, shoulder.
Yeah, but she
Shoulder. I'm
never
going to give
said
you an
anything.
anatomy class, Mr.
She
Castro.
never say anything.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Dana Robinson says 32-year-old Sergio Castro sexually harassed her. He says he was just patting her on the back.
You know, it doesn't sound to me as if, Miss Robinson, you are a shrinking violet. You know, you pretty assertive.
My husband also is also a witness as to seeing what went on with that.
With what?
With when he patted me on the butt. He was working there at that time, and he did see it.
Did you see it?
Yes, ma'am. I did see it.
Look at my eyes.
I'm sorry. He said that he told her to stay out of the kitchen area. When things calmed down in the restaurant, I noticed numerous times that when somebody
What's your
was...
last name, Robinson?
Yes, ma'am.
You stood up here so that I could ask you a question, so that you could give testimony with regard to what you saw with regard to any unlawful touching.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now answer that question. Did you ever, look at my eyes, see him touch your wife?
Yes.
When?
When she was working there.
Tell me about it.
He plays it off. He uses his patting on the back and then the rubbing thing.
Tell me what you saw.
I seen him pat her on the back. He slid his hand down and patted her on the butt.
When did you see that?
I'm not sure what day it was. I'm not very good when it comes to keeping up with dates.
Well, he worked
And
2
what
days
just a
only.
second. Just a second. And where were you when you saw that?
I was out in like the dining room area.
And exactly, you saw him pat her on the back
Yes, ma'am.
and show me what you saw on her.
I seen him. It was basically
Turn
more
around,
like
please, I can't
It was
see.
basically more of like a rub than a pat.
Yeah,
He just done this and then it just done this.
right. And then what did you do?
Can I say something?
No, not yet.
I didn't say nothing.
You didn't say anything?
No, it kind of got underneath my skin, but I'm just not much of a talker.
You can say, well, he's
Shut
lying.
up! So you saw somebody touch your wife's behind,
Uh huh.
and you didn't say anything.
Mm-mm.
And what did your wife say to you?
she asked me if I seen it, and I said no. At first, I told her no.
Why did you say no?
I just really didn't want to get in it at the time because, I mean, she'd been coming to me earlier telling me about it, and I was just like, well, you know, don't say nothing about it. Don't say nothing about it. Just keep doing your job.
Well, didn't you want to deck him when you saw him touch your wife?
I didn't want to get in trouble. I mean, I've had some problems and I've been in trouble before, and it's just I can't do anything else to get in any more trouble.
Sit down.
Can I say
He
something?
certainly knows Sir Galahad, your husband.
No, it's not that. I'll be truthful with you. He's on probation right now for violence. And if he violates his probation, it's 120 days in jail. He told me that if he was to hit Sergio
I didn't ask him whether he should deck him. I said that he want to deck him. But certainly not only didn't he confront him about it, when you asked him, did you see that? He said no.
He just told me that I was a big girl, I could handle myself.
Yeah, he said no
What a
because that's a
prince.
lie. I didn't touch her, and he can't see anything because the counter is that high.
Mr. Castro.
And I didn't touch her. I mean,
Mr.
from
Castro.
the dining room,
Mr. Castro.
you can see nothing on the kitchen.
Mr.
I
Castro.
never touched her anyway.
He gave her a pat, sir.
Yeah, you can see
Yes,
the part
you
on the
did.
shoulder.
No, shoulder.
But
Shoulder.
she
We're
never
going to give
said
you an
anything.
anatomy class, Mr.
She
Castro.
never say anything.
She did say something, Mr. Castro. She did say something. She called the owner of the place. You think that this lady, listen.
She never mentioned nothing to me, and when I asked her, she said she denied calling the owner for that.
Now, listen. No job is a guarantee, Miss Robinson. No job is a guarantee. And this wasn't a job that was paying you 50 grand a year, right?
No.
Okay. And you haven't worked since? I don't know why you haven't worked since.
At this point, like I said, my reputation is gone. I've had people
I don't know
from
why
his
your
restaurant-
reputation is gone.
I've had people from his restaurant calling me saying
Actually,
things.
nobody called from the restaurant.
I'm not allowed to mention the girl's name, but the girl had quit there on her own because of Sergio also. It started
Excuse me,
with
the girl that she's mentioning, she's hired.
And she's back.
She went back because she asked me for a job, and she's back. And she told me that she asked her to come here with her.
Shh. Listen.
And she said no.
Enough
because
already.
That's not a lie. Because
Listen.
that's a lie.
Sometimes you have to.
The other girl that she's mentioning, she denied it because she asked her to do it, and she said no. So that's a lie.
I'm going to give you one more second.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Judges have to make decisions based on common sense. Now, the common sense of this situation is that Miss Robinson needed a job. She needed a job desperately because she had... Am I talking?
Yeah.
She had a job. She had a job that she wanted to keep. She had family to support, and she had Prince Charming over here who certainly was not providing a lot. Even by the way of support, moral support. You see my mouth moving?
We tried to help.
You
her,
see my mouth?
giving
You
the
see my
husband
mouth moving?
Giving the husband a job, and he
Judgment in
couldn't
this
do it.
case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
All right, Judge Hughes, you may case number 282 on the calendar in the matter of Gatewood versus Boughton. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a
All
seat,
right.
gentlemen.
Let's see if I can unravel this rather complicated complaint. Mr. Gatewood, you and Miss Boughton were friends in 1995.
Yes.
And in that year, you sold her a used car.
Yes.
How much did you sell her the car for?
A sum of $2,000.
And she was supposed to repay you at the rate of $250 a month. Is that right? Yes.
Yes.
And you say in your answer that he was pretty reasonable about late payments and that sort of thing.
Right.
But you were paying off this car. What kind of car was it?
A VW Bug.
They're cute.
Yeah.
Right? So there came a time sometime a couple of years later when she hadn't been making her payments and you were worried about the insurance on the car. You decided to repossess the car.
Yes.
So in the still of the night, without telling her, right?
Oh, no.
Did you tell her you were going to repossess the car?
There was a letter sent to her, yes.
That said what? If you don't, I will?
What?
If you don't pay, I will repossess the car. Right?
Right.
But then you didn't tell her when you were going to repossess the car. Day and date.
It gave her till the end of the month, which was...
Mr. Gatewood,
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You didn't tell her when you were going to repossess
The exact
car.
day and time, and no,
Right.
no.
So, without telling her when you were going to repossess the car, this former friend of yours, you went to where the car was parked
Yes,
and took it.
yes,
And the registration was still in your name
yes,
because that was your arrangement.
yes.
She did what any normal person would do, getting up in the morning. You looked outside and you saw...
No car.
So you...
Called the cops.
You got arrested.
Pulled over, yeah.
For stealing your own car.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What people do to each other and to themselves. This is really so fascinating. I was fascinated when I read this complaint. Now, ultimately, it was okay because you spoke to the police and were able to convince them that it was your car.
Yes.
How long were you in custody?
About an hour and a half.
Was it scary?
Yeah, to say the least.
You ever been arrested before?
Never. I've never even darned bracelets.
What? Did they actually put you in handcuffs?
Yeah, I was on my knees and they put me in cuffs.
Tell me about that. I'm really curious to know.
I was driving home and I noticed the cop following me, and I eventually made it home and I pulled into my parking lot, or my carport, and I get the lights and I'm thinking, okay, what's this all about? And I get out of the car and I get this spotlight in my eyes and he says, throw the keys to the ground. I'm like, okay. He's like, turn around, put your hands on your head. I'm like, okay. And then he says, walk backwards towards my voice. And I did. He says, stop. And I feel something on my back and he says, get on your knees. I'm like, execution time. And they cuffed me. And I'm like, am I under arrest? And he says, no, you're in custody. I said, can you please explain the difference to me?
Did you say that to him?
Yes.
Did he have a sense of humor?
Not at this time. And so he says, can you explain to me instead why you're driving a stolen vehicle? I said, this isn't a stolen vehicle, this is my vehicle. And he says, what's your name? And I said, Guy Gatewood. He says, well, you got that part right. Then, explain this to me.
Had you known at that time that she had called the police?
No, this is just like completely...
So what you were suing her for is for having called the police and having had you arrested falsely.
Mm-hmm.
So you want some damages for that. And then you want some money for the car.
There's still a balance due on it.
Okay. Well, first let's take care of the car business, and then we'll get into this arrest business, because I have to figure out exactly how much, if anything, you're owed on the car, because she says that she paid money towards the car and she is countersuing you for the car, and then you're countersuing him, Miss Barton, for some nonsense, which I categorize as nonsense, which is the emotional distress of not having your car, something like that, which I'm not even going to think about because that's a lot of baloney. Now, how much did you pay for this VW Bug, sir?
How much did I pay for it?
That was my question. I'm sure you have an answer.
Initially, when I got the car, I paid $500. I then fixed the car up, put a brand new motor in it, fixed the body, did the interior as well. It came to about $2,400.
Let us assume, for the moment, you paid $2,300 for the car.
Okay.
All right? How many payments did you make on this car?
I had about 2 more payments left. I owed him about $600 more on the car.
How many payments did she make on the car?
She made 4 payments on the car. She only owed $425 on the car.
So she paid you in total how much?
$1,575.
Okay. And how much money did you sell the car for, sir? Because your complaint says that you sold the car after you repossessed it.
I've resold the Volkswagen for $200.
Why?
For the condition that it was in when I got it back, it wasn't worth much more than that.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
The idea that he came at night and took it was a total passive-aggressive, miserable move that is typical of Guy Gatewood.
Real cases, real people, Judge Judy. Guy Gatewood says he was embarrassed when he was handcuffed and led away after he repossessed Nicole Boughton's car. Now he wants payment for the car and the emotional distress.
Who did you sell it to?
A neighbor downstairs for his wife so she could go back and forth to work.
Let me see the bill of sale. What year Volkswagen was this?
It's a 71 Super Beetle.
Mr. Gatewood.
Yes.
You were driving this car when the police pulled you over.
Yes, I was.
Where were you driving it from, sir?
I was driving it from Shooter's Bar in Huntington Beach.
What is the distance between this barn and your home?
2 miles.
And how long had you been driving the car from the time you repossessed it until the time they repossessed you?
It was stored most of the time. Maybe 2 or 3 times I took it out to keep it running. I also have another Blazer and a motorcycle that I use frequently.
Now, Mr. Gatewood, just because you do a bill of sale for $200, sir, doesn't mean that I believe that you sold this car for $200 because the car was clearly a drivable vehicle. Drivable vehicle, cute little car, almost vintage, you know, 71 VW Bug. Was a convertible or not?
No, it's not convertible.
So just because you wrote $200 here doesn't necessarily mean I believe that you were paid $200 for it in total.
I'm not the only signature on that statement.
You're talking about the buyer?
The buyer also.
Oh, well, it would certainly serve. The buyer would certainly say that he only paid $200 for the car because that means his tax when he has to register the car is a lot less. People do that all the time. It's wrong and it's illegal, but people do it all the time when they sell cars that are used cars. They say, hey, listen, put down $200, I'll give you $800 for the car, and then I only have to pay tax on $200. You understand that, Mr. Gatewood?
I understand your point of view.
Now, what did you, after you found out that the car wasn't there, you called the police. When did you realize that he had taken the car?
About 3 days after I made the report. I didn't hear from him. I called him as soon as I called the police. I was like, your car's been stolen. I know I still owe you money on it. I'll pay you the money I owed on it, but just to let you know it's been stolen. So if you get any calls about it being found, then call me back. I didn't hear from him.
And he didn't tell you that he had taken the car?
No.
Right?
Right.
Right.
I was told by legal advice not to speak with her.
Just a second.
Sure.
She told you that she had reported the car stolen.
No, she didn't tell me that she
What
called
did
the
she
police.
say?
She left on the answering machine. She goes, I don't know if you have the car or not, but it's not up here. Give me a call. And that was it.
And did you call her?
No.
Well, didn't you think that she might call the police and report the car stolen?
Yes, but I didn't think they'd take a stolen police report without proof of ownership.
Well, then, that's your problem, Mr. Gatewood, so I'm dismissing that part of your complaint for having you arrested because it seems to me she did the right thing by calling you immediately, and if you wanted to be smart, you could have had a friend or someone else call her and say, he doesn't want to speak to you personally, he has the car. When did you find out that he had possession of the car?
Like I said, it was about 3 days after. When he didn't call and tell me, make any comment about it being stolen is when I knew that he must have taken it. I mean, because that's a part of his character that I wouldn't doubt. So a friend of mine was like, do you think he took it? And I'm like, you know, he's just miserable of enough person to have done that, but I'm not going to call him until I chill out, because I was pissed. I had no notification.
Say, listen to me, you're in court. Try angry.
Angry. I was angry. I was out of control. No, I wasn't out of control. I was just angry. I was amazed that he could have done anything so low without any notification. But like I said, it's part of the nature that I knew of him.
So what did you do? Did you call the police?
I called the police and I said, I made a report a couple days ago. This is the number. Scratch that report. He goes, well, was the car stolen or wasn't it stolen? I said, well, it was taken without notification by its registered owner, so I don't know if you'd call that stolen. But it's not stolen, it's in the owner's hands. When I got a call from the Huntington Police Department a couple months later saying, we recovered your car, I like knew something definitely went wrong with the reports. I called him immediately. I'm like, Guy, I need to talk to you about your car. There's some problems. If you need my help with anything, call me, and I will totally help you straighten it out. I never heard from him.
He should have told you. He should have notified you immediately that he had repossessed the car. That's what you do when you repossess a car. You tack a notice on the door. This property has been repossessed.
I sent her a registered letter.
Did she pick it up?
She refused it.
Can I see it?
It was...
Well, that's all right. She refused it, so there was no notice. If you had a receipt that she had received it, that's one thing. Why didn't you just leave a message on her machine that you had the car, sir?
Because I couldn't prove that she would acknowledge the fact that she received any information from me.
You could have done both. Right? You could have done both, you know?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You buy a used car that's 25 years old. Listen, anything that reaches 25 years old starts to go downhill. Believe me, I know. You know, every year it gets a little bit worse.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Guy Gatewood says Nicole Boughton owes him for a car and a false arrest. Nicole says Guy owes her for payments and repairs she made on the car.
In any event, Mr. Gatewood, I'm really sort of surprised that you repossessed the car anyway, since she owed you just a couple of $100s on the car.
I waited 9 months, 3 of which she lived with me, to receive any form of further payment towards it, and there was nothing coming in. I sent her a letter saying, you know...
What do you mean she lived with you? She lived with you as boyfriend and girlfriend,
No,
or she lived with you as a tenant?
She was a tenant in one of my... I had a spare bedroom. She rented it out.
And while she was living with you, she was driving this car, and she did not make any payments.
No.
But then she moved out. But she paid you almost everything that was owed on the car.
75% of the thing, yes.
How long did you have the car?
I don't know, about a year and a half, year?
2 years, almost.
Yeah. We can talk about the repairs of this perfect car that I paid twice of what it was worth when I first bought it, and I had to immediately put in at least $1,000 on this perfect car. That the money went to his buddies at his garage who charged me so much for like
well, you
repairs.
Didn't. Just a second. Nobody forced you to go to his garage, right?
Well, I thought they would.
Nobody forced you to go to his
You're right.
garage.
You're right.
And when you buy a used car that's 25 years old.
But when it's supposedly in good condition,
What everybody says.
in great condition.
Everybody says it's a cream puff. Isn't that the right word? It's a perfect car.
Anyway, he knew of these repairs, and that's why he wasn't getting some of the car payments on time. Was because I was putting so much money into fixing this cream
Listen,
puff.
he's not your partner in this tragedy.
What's that?
He's not your partner in this car tragedy. You buy a used car that's 25 years old. Listen, anything that reaches 25 years old starts to go downhill. Believe me, I know. You know, every year it gets a little bit worse, right? Cars are no different from people. So you buy a 25-year-old car, you be prepared, even if the owner of the car says it's in great shape, to pay whatever it is. If you get disgusted paying for the repairs, then you sell it. But you don't charge it off. Because a bank wouldn't understand if you went to a bank and you say, well, I had to pay repairs for the car, and I had to pay my phone bill, and I had to pay this, and I had to pay that, so I can't pay you this month. They wouldn't have tolerated it. But I have a problem, because you two clearly knew each other. You were friends. You knew each other for a long time. She lived in your house. And Mr. Gatewood, I don't understand why you treated this in nothing more than what apparently is an arm's-length transaction by going and repossessing the car, not notifying her immediately. Not notifying her immediately. Even if you send her a registered letter, that takes a couple of days to get there. Any normal person coming out of their house, not seeing their car, would call the police. Then you are at risk, sir. So you caused that problem yourself by repossessing the car without advising her that you were going to do it, or at least repossessing the car at midnight, tacking a notice on her door, I have in fact repossessed the car. If you have any problem with that, I'll see you in court. Whatever it is. But you didn't do that. So if you got arrested, that's your problem. So that part of your lawsuit is dismissed. And the only thing that I have to try to figure out is who owes who money for this car.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Now, you have any proof that you paid $2,300 for this car?
That was all in parts, receipts, stuff like that.
Well, let me see.
I did bring anything like that with me because I didn't feel it would be necessary for today.
And you say you bought it for $500?
Yes.
So let's see how much you made. So you don't have any proof of how much you put in to have it fixed for me. So let's say you put in nothing. So you bought it for $500. You got $1,575 from her, and you got another, according to you, $200 from your neighbor. 5, 7, 12. So far, you got $1,775 for a car that you paid $500 for. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, on the other hand, Miss Barton, you had the use of a car for almost 2 years.
Right.
At about $750 a year, right?
Plus all the repairs.
That's what happens when you have a car. You do repairs on a car when you have a car. So for $750 a year, you had basic transportation.
Basic, very basic.
Did you have another car or just this car?
It was great.
It was great. So that seems to me as if, that's nice, 12 months. Comes out to what? Less than $50 or 50, $60 a month to own a car? That's not bad. You have insurance for this car?
Not anymore.
Did you have?
Did I have?
Paid up insurance all the time?
All the time, no, not all the time.
Well, that was one of the reasons he repossessed the car, right?
I don't know.
Just a second.
He had more excuses for taking the car.
Let me ask you a question. No, he's very clear in his complaint. He says he was concerned because the car's in his name, and you told him you didn't have money to keep up the insurance. So he was afraid if he got into an accident in this car, they were going to come and take away his other car and everything else that he owns, right? So you didn't have insurance on the car,
okay?
Right? Mm-hmm. Oy. Sounds to me as if you made out okay, Mr. Gatewood, in the sale of the car. Sounds to me, Miss Barton, that you brought on some of this on your own, had no insurance on a car. You certainly weren't going to get stuck if the car was in an accident or if you hurt somebody. He was going to get stuck. He's the registered owner, and you have nothing because you couldn't even make the car payment, so they couldn't go after you. So it sounds to me as if you two folks absolutely deserve each other. Your complaint is dismissed. Your countersuit is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Judge, this is number 132 on the calendar in the matter of Trevino versus Reeder. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Trevino. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Reeder.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Reeder Sr. Step up here. Ms. Trevino, according to your complaint, you and Mr. Reeder Sr. were living together, correct?
No.
He wasn't living with you?
He stayed with me for a month.
Stayed with you. I paid the rent.
Just a second. He stayed with you for a month. This is his son.
Yes, ma'am.
He also stayed with you.
Yes, ma'am.
And while they were staying with you, you let Junior use your Sears credit card.
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Well, we were good friends, and he was just starting a job, and there was stuff that he needed, like tool chests and stuff, and he promised to pay me back when he started working and started getting an income, and I trusted him. He's a nice kid. But now that Senior and I are no longer seeing each other, he doesn't want to pay me.
Why didn't you ask your father for money?
Because I like Sears tools.
Because what?
I like the tools that Sears put out.
So?
She had a Sears charge card.
Go ahead, sir. Maybe you can answer for him.
Actually, what happened, Your Honor, when we got together, and we were there a lot longer than any 2 months.
Well, first it was a month, now you say it was longer than 2 months.
It was a lot longer. The relationship went on for about a year and a half. Mrs. Trevino's credit card was not being able to be used at the time, and I paid it up, brought it current. The Sears credit card, I paid up the Sears credit card where it could be used. I paid up her Visa credit card, which they never let her use it. Okay, at that time, my son could have asked me for the money, but I didn't even know they were going out and buying the tools. She took him to Sears and started on her own while we were still together. And as we were living together for quite some time, over a month, things went on between them. He could have gotten the money from me if he'd have asked me for it.
Well, that's what I want to know. Why didn't you ask your father to borrow the money for your tools rather than asking Miss Trevino?
Because she had a charge card for there.
But he had the money.
I never came up to ask him for that, Your Honor.
All right, so now you use the credit card. How much did you charge on her credit card?
About $1,100, Your Honor, or so.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you pay back?
$1,108.45.
You have proof of that for me?
Your Honor, what I have is my check register
And what does it say in it?
that I have made payments. I have 9 checks totaling the amount of $508.45.
Is that made directly to Sears?
Sears and Mrs. Trevino.
Let me see it. Do you deny that he gave you these checks, madam? He's got them in his book.
He gave me checks for the rent when he was living there.
Some of this, how much rent?
He was paying $200 a month.
There are charges here for $32.45, $38, $75, $63.
For what?
I don't know. It says to Sandra Trevino. Let me see your Sears bill, please. Was she charging you rent?
I paid her rent on my own will, and I never wrote her a check for rent. I just given her cash.
What do you mean you gave it of your own will, sir?
I was told I didn't have to pay rent, but I paid her anyway.
That's not true.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I was the one paying the rent at the time.
That's not true.
Out of my own money. That's why he didn't have to pay rent.
He said he was giving her cash.
He did give her money, but like I said, it was because he wanted to.
So you say, sir, that you repaid her $508 by check, and this is for the tools that you bought on the Sears card. Is that right?
Yes.
But you also say you paid her cash.
Yes.
Twice.
Yes.
How are you going to prove that to me?
What? Ma'am, I have no... we were friends at the time. I didn't think I needed a receipt for that.
Well, but you paid most of the money by check. Why would you pay $600 of it in cash?
Well, because I would go cash my check, and I'd just give her the cash instead of the check.
Why did you give her some checks? All of them were under $100. And then what you opted to give her in cash, you gave her in $200, $300 payments. That doesn't sound logical to me, sir.
Well, at the time, I had the cash on me. And the only reason why I didn't get a receipt was because I was living with her. She was seeing my father.
Did he ever give you cash?
No, ma'am.
He did not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, return this to him. Yes.
He did give her cash, Your Honor.
No.
And I've given her a lot of cash even since then.
No, I believe...
A couple of times I didn't ask for receipts. Then at the very last, she started writing me receipts. I didn't bring them with me, but she did write me some receipts.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She stole her car out of a shopping center before Christmas, and I got blamed for the car.
This is getting fascinating.
And later today...
I did see a cat, and I saw them, running after the cat, and I did see a cat.
I'm not sure I believe that you saw a cat.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Trevino says 26-year-old tow truck operator Dustin Reeder used her credit card and didn't repay her. Dustin says he paid her back in cash.
Miss Trevino, why are you suing him now?
Because they were going through some bad times, and he didn't have any money. He went to jail for a couple months. The kids were trying to run the business, and they weren't making ends meet. And I was actually helping them keep the business going while he was. And
what kind of business?
Towing business.
Automobile towing?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you incarcerated for a period of time, sir?
Yes, I was.
For how long?
I was actually in jail for 45 days.
For what?
Because she had stole her car, and I got blamed for it.
You're a lying sack.
That's right. She stole her car out of a shopping center before Christmas, and I got blamed for the car, and I didn't involve her in it. I took the heat because my lawyer advised me to take the heat, so I took it.
Explain. No, this is getting fascinating. This is much.
Hey, it's the truth. You can check it out with the courts.
Well, you can't check it out with the courts. If you pled guilty, sir, and served 45 days, then you pled guilty to something. Explain to me. She stole a car.
That's right.
Out of a parking lot.
That's right.
How did you get involved with it?
Well, when I first met Mrs. Trevino,
He tried selling it to cop.
She didn't have a car. She had problems with her car. I gave her the money to go out and put a down payment on a new car. When we started squabbling, she couldn't make the payments. So then she decided, it was insured, she decided that she would take it and collect the insurance off of it, which she did.
You're a pathological liar.
What are you, just a second.
The car,
Pathological.
you didn't collect insurance?
Mr. Trevino, go ahead.
The car,
So she reported the car stolen.
that's right.
Ah, it's coming together. She reported the car stolen, and then the plan was for her to go out and sell the car once she got the insurance money for it. Is that right? Am I right?
You're close.
Well, tell me where I'm off. Tell me where I'm off.
Anyway, as it turned out, I got caught with the car
How did you get caught with the car?
because somebody had did some work on it, brought it back,
You mean did some work on it to sort of
changed the VIN numbers.
the VIN numbers?
Changed the VIN numbers. Brought it back. I got caught with it. Okay? And like I said, at that time, I never brought it up. I never one time said anything about it to the law or anything. I just went to jail for it.
Well, you knew that there
And
was
believe me,
you knew the
believe me, I wish
scenario,
I
so you
hadn't.
weren't blameless, sir, right?
I was partly to blame because I got caught with it.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I drive a tow truck.
Your father's tow truck?
Yes.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. These tools that you bought from Sears, what did you need them for?
I like to work on cars.
Sounds to me, with the exception of this young man, these people all deserve each other. Well, I'm going to give you credit, sir, for the following. I believe that you gave her checks towards the Sears bill of $1,100 in the amount of $500, leaving a total of $600 left. Now, I want you to look in my eyes and tell me whether you gave her an additional $600 in cash.
Yes, ma'am, I did. In 2 installments.
Hmm?
I have given her $600 in cash for the tool bill.
For the tools.
Yes, on the
You
Sears
gave her
charge.
extra money for rent
Yes, I was paying her $200 a month for rent.
in addition to the tools. Is that right?
Yes, every month I stayed there, I gave her $200 a month.
Ms. Trevino, I believe him. This young man, I believe. I don't know if I believe either of you two people, but I believe him that he paid you. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Pathological liars. They're known liars. That's all they do is lie.
And now the next case.
Parties on Brown versus Silberg. Step forward.
32-year-old retail manager Paul Brown is suing his building manager, Greg Silberg, 52, because his dog fell off the roof when a cat frightened it.
Mr. Silberg, are you the owner of this building in question?
No,
or are you
I'm
manager?
the owner of the management company.
Okay. And this is a 3-story building.
Correct.
You, sir, live in that building?
Yes.
And how long have you lived there?
I lived there approximately about 9 months.
And you have a dog?
Yes.
That dog?
I have 2 dogs.
But that's the dog in question?
Correct.
You were going into your building?
Actually, I was going to walk my dog on the, and I was going to visit a friend on the 3rd floor. And
In the building?
In the building.
And your dog did not have a leash on?
They both had leashes on them. I took them in the elevator, walked up to the 3rd floor. I went to knock on my friend's door on the 3rd floor, which is right around the corner from the sun deck. And I had both dogs in one hand, on my left hand. And they saw a cat. This is late at night, about 10:30 at night. They saw a cat. They got loose. As I was running up the stairs, the dogs already were up on the patio or the sun deck, and that one fell. He was down below, and that was it. I mean...
Just a second. Did you see the cat, sir?
Yes,
Look at me.
Yes.
Did you see a cat?
Yes, I did. I saw a cat.
Late at night.
That's how they darted out of my hand.
Late at night, you're ringing a bell.
Knocking on the door, correct.
Knocking at a door, right? Like this.
Correct.
Where was the cat?
The cat was to the left, going up to the sun deck.
I'm not sure I believe that you saw a cat. That's first. I do believe that your dog ran up to the sun deck. Fell off. Right?
Right.
And you're suing him for $5,000.
Correct.
Tell me why.
Well,
Because that's the dog. The dog is here.
Right. First of all, I have pictures before and after, what Sendek looked like before and after, and as well as the medical bills, which ranged into approximately about $1,400. And for my dog's a championship dog, and I was actually going to breed him. I have papers on him, and as well as I have the notice from the city of West Hollywood saying that that sun deck was not properly permitted, and if they had the proper railing on that sun deck, my dog would have never fell. And that's why I'm suing him for $5,000.
I'll see all of his pictures.
And this is the medical bill. And I also have a letter from the doctor stating the condition of the dog.
Who found the dog?
Phil found the dog. He was downstairs waiting for me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Can I say something?
Do you feel as if you must, sir?
You've kind of said it all, to be honest.
Then why don't you just be quiet?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Paul Brown is suing building manager Greg Silberg because his dog fell off the roof. Mr. Silberg says the dog should have been on a leash.
Describe the dog when you found him.
Well, I was standing outside, and I heard the loud noise, him hitting the concrete. When I found him, he was unconscious, tongue hanging out of his mouth. He was bleeding from his mouth. I went and grabbed a towel, picked him up. He was stiff. I didn't even know if he was alive anymore. And then I found a pulse. I took him into the apartment, found a pulse, called the veterinarian hospital, and we drove him immediately to the hospital. He was unconscious for a couple days.
Mm-hmm. When you found the dog that night, and I want you to think very carefully, sir, did the dog have a leash?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I found the dog.
A couple of things. I don't understand how this dog got away from you if you were holding both dogs in your hand with the leash.
I had them both on one hand as I was knocking on the door of the third floor. And I did see a cat, and I saw them, running after the cat, and I did see a cat. And he went off, the other dog, because I called them both.
Well, just a second.
Both their names.
So what you're telling me is you had both dogs
in my left hand, correct?
In one hand.
Right.
And you couldn't control holding on to the leashes of both dogs.
No, because actually when they saw the cat.
Well, the cat's not his fault.
Okay, but the balcony's his fault.
Just a second. How?
He broke the law. The law, that balcony was not properly permitted. If that balcony was properly permitted, that dog would have never fell.
This is not a place that you didn't know about. You knew about this place. Now, I'm not saying he's not in some way responsible for not having it properly gated off. I looked at the gate that he put up there. Your dog can get through that gate.
Yeah, but if
Just a second. If that's a proper gate that he put up afterwards, that little skinny dog can get through that gate. And could have gotten through that gate that night. So could a cat.
Not running that fast.
What do you mean not running?
Not running. A dog cannot get through that gate. Those bars are approximately 4 inches apart. Now, if a dog's running at full speed, the dog cannot go through that gate.
You mean he'd have to stop and wiggle through?
He would have to stop.
Just a second.
He would realize that no.
He would realize. The dog would realize.
He would realize that he would not be able to get through that gate going that fast. That's why the dog fell, because he was going so fast and he didn't see the drop. That's why the dog fell. Now, if that gate was up there, the dog would have stopped.
This gate, sir, is not designed to keep out dogs and cats. It's designed to protect people. Dog and cat owners are responsible for taking care of their own pets.
Correct.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Just because there is an accident doesn't mean somebody has to pay you. That's not what the courts are about, sir. This is a people protector. And the fact that you suggest that a dog at full run couldn't go through there, that may be. Certainly, a cat can wiggle through here. Certainly, a small dog can get through here. The design
but not
of it...
at full speed.
I don't care whether it's full speed
If it's chasing, if the dog's chasing a cat...
You're never going to get through to him. Never going to get through to him, sir. Not every injury results in an award of money. You are responsible for keeping control of your dog.
And he's
You have-
responsible for keeping the railing. I mean, he
Yes,
put
sir,
a
and I will
balcony
tell
up.
you something else. If somebody chased you up on the roof that evening and you fell off the 3rd floor because there was no adequate railing, you could sue him for a lot more than $5,000 because
If I
he is
lived.
responsible, if you lived, and if you could breed, because that's what you're complaining about. But because there was no bar or gate there, that's not the reason your dog fell. Your dog fell because you dropped the leash. And your dog went...
But I didn't drop the leash, Your Honor. The dogs got away from me. I didn't drop the leash.
Mr. Brown, sir,
Can I say something?
do you feel as if you must, sir?
You've kind of said it all, to be honest.
Then why don't you just be quiet?
Okay.
This lawsuit is dismissed.
Parties are excused. Step out, please. Case number 399 on the calendar in the matter of Kravich versus Robinson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, please.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
You were her landlord.
Yes.
Claims she left the apartment not only a mess, which caused you to spend a lot of money to fix it up and clean it up, but that she also left owing you rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Robinson, you have an interesting counterclaim. First, you want $5,000 because you say he sexually harassed you, which I assume you're going to tell me about.
I sure will.
And then you tell me that you don't owe him anything because your rent was paid directly by the government to him. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. How did you find the apartment in his house?
There was a sign, a for rent sign in front of the house.
And it was a private house?
It was a private house.
And who did you live there with?
I lived there with me and my 2 sons.
Now, you say that this was a Section 8 house, which means that the municipality where you live was paying the rent. How was that arrangement made with him?
I had Section 8, a Section 8 certificate, and Section 8 pays a portion of my rent.
A portion of your rent?
A portion of my rent.
Go ahead.
They send a check to Mr. Kravitz every month, and then I am to pay the rest. I have a contract here that states that I was to pay $32 and that they would pay the balance of my rent.
They were going to pay the balance, and your responsibility was only $32?
Exactly.
How much was the rental on this house, Mr. Kravitz?
$1,100.
Okay, and how large a house is this?
It's 2-bedroom, 1 bath, approximately 1,250 square feet.
And had you applied to be a landlord that had Section 8 coverage? Do you have to do that?
No, ma'am.
Well, then what did you have to do with Section 8?
She approached me, and here's the list that she signed to pay $1,100 for the rent. And then the reason she went to Section 8 is because apparently she wanted to save a certain amount of money and not to show, but the arrangement was that I will receive $1,100 total.
So when she came to rent your house, did she tell you at that time that she was going to apply for Section 8 housing?
No, only about a week and a half later, which after I checked the credit and everything else, and I told her I cannot because she didn't have a good credit, then she told me that I will have guarantee from a certain amount of money from the government to pay the portion of the rent, which the other section will be paid by the boyfriend that lived with her. So therefore, he will cover the rest of the $1,100.
So there was a boyfriend that lived with her for a while?
Yes.
Did the boyfriend move in with her?
Every time I used to come there, he was there.
You forgot about the boyfriend, Miss Robinson.
No, I didn't. Actually,
well, you said yourself and 2 sons. You didn't mention anything about a boyfriend.
Because there was no boyfriend. There was no boyfriend living with me in that house.
Was there somebody staying with you occasionally?
No, there was not. There was not.
Okay. Let me see the lease, please.
I'm sorry. This is a credit application.
Did you sign this lease?
I don't remember that lease. I did sign the lease with the contract with Section 8 and the Housing Authority.
All right, well, it may not prove to be terribly important if you agree, madam, that you agreed initially to pay him $1,100 a month rent.
Okay. Can I explain?
Did you agree to pay him $1,100 a month rent?
That was the rent that he asked
He asked for $1,100. Okay, what we agreed on was that Section 8 would come and inspect the house, and they would tell us what the market value is. I have a lease between him, myself, and Section 8, and it clearly states.
Let me see that. Let me see. Did you sign this 4-page document, sir?
Yes, sir.
You know what it says?
Yes. That,
What does it say? It says that she'll give you the difference of $32.
yes, and I refused to rent it to her at this term, and she agreed. The boyfriend with live with her will pay me. She will pay her, and she will pay me the difference, which was $300 different. I couldn't afford to rent the house this amount of money because my payment on the house is $1,200 a month, and I got the rent before at $1,100, and she knew it very well.
All right. Now, Miss Robinson, I'm going to tell you right now that what this gentleman says has a ring of truth to it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because he owns a piece of property. He can set the value on his piece of property. He was renting the apartment, the house, for $1,100 a month. If you couldn't afford the house at $1,100 a month, if you didn't want to pay $1,100 a month, you leave. He was under no obligation to rent this place to you under whatever prevailing rate the government chose to give him.
Then he should not have signed the lease, and he should not have agreed to accept $842 for the
And you shouldn't have signed the lease agreeing to pay him $1,100.
That was an additional, that was a proposal that he had made. And I said, if Section 8 will go for that and allow that, then that's fine.
I don't believe that you said that to him. No way, because that doesn't have the ring of truth to it. That doesn't have a ring of truth to it. You said, I'll sign this, but if Section 8 only says they're going to give you $300 a month, then that's what I'm going to pay you $300 a month.
Right, which I would not have moved in. Had he not agreed to it, I would not have moved in.
Oh, Miss Robinson.
I would not have moved in.
Baloney. Baloney. You signed the lease, and then you went to Section 8 and said, come out and look at the house. And then they came out and looked at the house, and they said, this is what we think that the house is worth. Right? That's how it happened.
He signed
No,
that.
just a second.
Okay.
That's what happened. That's the scenario. And you're already in there with your kids when Section 8 came out. I know how these things work. They work
That's
like
right.
mud going upstream. So you're already in there. They came out, and you said to him, if I can have the house because I like it, I'll pay you the difference. That's what you said to him. I know that. You know that. So do me a favor. Don't stand there and tell me no, because that's what happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Joe had a girlfriend, a very young, blonde girlfriend that he'd bring over. He asked me to sleep with him and his girlfriend on 2 occasions.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joe Kravich is suing Nico Robinson for rent. Nico is countersuing Joe for sexual harassment.
So you left, and you had, according to you, she was a delinquent in this additional money, and you were very forgiving of that for a long period of time. Yes. Why?
She had enough problems. She had to give back the car. She didn't have work. So I let her pay slowly and a section of it, which it started in August. And all the time she caught up. Even though she'd been late, she caught up with the payments until August. In August, started delinquent, and she didn't pay for a long time. And I've got the list exactly what she didn't pay, which she acknowledged that she owed me this amount of money. In February 10th, I wrote her a letter, 3 days to clear to pay.
Let me see the amount that she owes you in the letter. You acknowledge receiving this letter, Miss Robinson?
Yes, I do.
And then she wanted me to tell her exactly what is the damages after she left me the house and this condition, which I'm, if I may. After about a month going back and forth, yeah.
Your Honor, I can explain the condition of the house. Joe had rented the house out before my actual contract in my new house was to start. Joe shows up one day, knocks at my door, and says, Nico, I need you to move out right away because I have someone that's going to move in, and I'm going to lose my new tenant if you don't move out. And I said, Joe, I can't move out until the new house is ready, and Section 8 has drawn up the contracts for me to move. Joe says, Nico, if you don't move out, again, I'm going to lose this tenant. So Jeffrey was present that day that he showed up at my house and says, okay, I'll go get a truck and we'll
Had
move.
you already received this 3-day notice to quit?
I received that notice months prior to me moving out.
Okay, and you didn't?
I received the notice.
Yes.
And I talked to Joe, and I also called the housing authority.
Yes.
And I told them, listen, I need your help at this point. They said if Joe's having a problem, he needs to contact the housing authority. He wanted nothing to do with the housing authority.
Neither did you, because you called according to your answer. You called the housing authority and said that you didn't like the conditions of the house. So they said to you, according to your papers, well, let us come out and take a look at the place. And you decided against that. You said at that point I was just fed up, so I decided to move.
Well, I had the toilet backing up constantly.
What I'm telling you is the housing authority said, we're prepared to come out and look at the complaints that you have with regard to the property.
But I did want to move.
You told them to forget it because you were moving anyway. That's what you wrote in your answer.
Okay.
You know, I've been around this block for a while. Now look. You left this place a disaster. And there is no excuse for that. There's no excuse for this.
There is an excuse for that, Your Honor.
Just a second.
I have to finish because
I'm listening to your excuse for this.
We moved out so quickly. We moved out that day. I didn't pack anything. When you move, you plan something. You plan to move, you get organized, you pack your things. You don't have 6 or 7 people just grabbing everything and throwing it into a truck, and that's what took place. We got a truck.
What day of the month did you move out?
You know what? I don't know the date.
What day of the month did she move out?
May 5th.
May 5th.
Who are you?
The tenant, the new tenant.
You're the new tenant. Okay.
I cleaned up the place.
Hey!
Sorry.
May 5th is not when you move out. You move out on the 1st of the month. That was the plan, to move out on the 1st of the month.
But I couldn't move the 1st
That's
of the month.
Listen, he's not related to you. He rented the apartment to somebody else to move in on the 1st of May. You haven't done anything. He's rented the house. You know he's rented the house. Now it's May 5th, and he says, nah, sorry, you really have to move. You said, well, like it was unexpected. It wasn't unexpected. Miss Robinson.
I was planning on being in the new house on the 15th of the month.
You were planning. He wasn't planning. This is not your father. This is not your brother. Right? This was your landlord, who you were already shorting $2,000 in rent.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's true. Come on, it's true. This is not nice. This is not nice.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So after he put this hit on you, a month after your lease, you stayed there 2 more years.
I had no choice. I can't just move.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joe Kravich says Nico Robinson skipped out on rent. Nico says Joe sexually harassed her.
Miss Robinson, are you sure you want to tell me about the rest of your countersuit for $5,000 for sexual harassment?
Absolutely.
Are you positive?
I'm absolutely positively
Fine.
sure. Like
Tell
to
me
tell
about
you.
it.
When I first showed up at the house, I showed up with Mamie, my witness. When I walked in, Joe says, you can have the house. And I'm like, wow, that easy? I can have the house? He says, oh yeah, you can have the house. There was no credit check. I never gave him a security deposit. I asked him what was the security deposit. Oh, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay a security deposit. Joe had a girlfriend, a very young blonde girlfriend that he'd bring over. He asked me to sleep with him and his girlfriend on 2 occasions.
Just a second, when was this?
This was maybe a month into me moving there.
So a month after you moved in?
A month after I moved in.
And I assume you said no.
Of course I said no.
Give me next. Next,
It was constant. His hitting on me, his sexual harassment.
No,
his
sexual harassment is a conclusion, madam.
Okay, sure. Then that would be the conclusion of his actions.
That would be the conclusion. So after he put this hit on you, a month after your lease, you stayed there 2 more years.
I had no choice. I can't just move.
Listen.
I was a full-time student at that time with Section 8. I don't have the money just to go move. I
Just
have to
like you moved into his house, you call the housing authority and you say, listen,
not that
this is...
easy.
It's not that easy. Miss Robinson, I'm going to tell you something about allegations of sexual harassment. I take them very seriously. I think that anybody who is harassed in a workplace, who is harassed in a place of residence, whether it's a man or a woman, and legitimately making somebody else's life miserable because of their gender.
And he did.
That's serious. Your story is full of baloney. Because you didn't file a suit 2.5 years ago. You didn't file a suit last year. You didn't file a suit this year. You waited until he sued you for the money that you owe him. And then, unfortunately, women say, I was sexually harassed. Oh, sure.
Okay.
Oh, sure you did.
That's not the case.
Well, because if you were so offended and started to think, as soon as you met this man, you just told me as soon as you met this man, he came on to you.
Sure did.
That would have been before you got in touch with Section 8, before you signed the lease, before you did anything else. Then what you do is you turn around, you say, thank you very much, and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You didn't do that. So evidently you found his comments to you not so terrible, not so harassing. They only became harassing, madam, when you owed him money. And, listen to me, sir, you made certain mistakes. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did it cost you to clean up these premises, this mess?
It cost me $2,123.54.
Let me see.
Plus $805 that I have to give Wendy as a free rent. And if I may say, Your Honor, Wendy met Nico in March, the beginning of March, and they made arrangement for Nico to move,
Can I just tell my own? Thank you. Several things I want to say. I don't want to take up your time. First of all, upon the first moment of coming into this situation, when I talked to Renate, I saw the house in the recycler. Renate said, we just put it in. The recycler had just come out. It was in March. I went there. I had called Nico on the phone. She sounded like she'd been crying, but she said I could come over. I went over there. Upon the first minute of walking in the house, she went on and on to me about how wonderful Joe was as a landlord, and you must take the house. It's such a spiritual place. It'll be perfect for you, because I guess I'd mentioned I was an artist or whatever, and Joe is the best landlord. He'll take care of anything that you need. Oh, you must take this place. I made arrangements 3 times with the gas company, the DWP, and my mover friends, and had to cancel. Upon the 4th time I called, that's when actually everything stayed. I had to call and cancel, because she kept giving different dates. And, you know, she knew prior to May 5th that she had to be out, because we'd already made 3 dates.
When was the first date that you made?
I think the first was the 15th of April. Okay. And then we went to the first of the months, and it just...
Yeah, April 15th.
April 15th was the first.
So this didn't come as a surprise to you that she was moving in. So you should have had your stuff all boxed up and ready to go.
Right.
So that you didn't leave it like this pig pen.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Kravich, listen to me very carefully, sir. She owes you $1,960. I believe that she owes you that. If she had moved in like a normal tenant, she would have taken a month's security from her, which is $1,100, because that's what your lease was, right?
Right.
That would mean that she would have owed you $3,060. Right. I know that you're suing for more, but if she was just somebody who took off and you would have had her security deposit, plus the money that she owes you for rent. So I'm giving you a judgment for $3,060. And I am dismissing, madam, your counterclaim as pure, unadulterated hogwash. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This case number 418 on the calendar in the matter of Hickman versus Fraley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
You were together for 4.5 years. You let him use your credit cards. You split up. You don't pay.
Correct.
What'd you give me your credit cards for?
Well, we dated for almost a little over 4.5 years, and he did not have a credit card. So on occasions when he needed to use a credit card.
Why didn't you have a credit card?
I didn't want a credit card. I didn't need one.
You had hers.
Didn't have hers. She had hers.
Did you use hers?
I didn't use hers without her being there. She was
I
there.
didn't mean that you used it without her knowledge and permission. Did you use her credit card?
We used her credit cards.
Did you ever use her credit card for things that was strictly for you?
Yes.
Like what?
Well, some car repairs.
Okay, and that was for your car?
Right.
So you did need a credit card for your car repairs?
Well, at the situation, I didn't really need a credit card. I could have paid for it myself cash, but it was offered the use of the credit card to pay for my car repairs.
So, chivalry being dead, you accepted.
Well, that's a different type of, I wouldn't say that. I'd say that the money was supposed to be used towards a vacation that I was going to be going on with the plaintiff.
How much did you charge on her credit card for your car repair?
About $850.
Did you pay
That
for
would
it?
be actually incorrect.
Okay. How much did he pay?
How much did he pay?
For the car repairs. How much
well,
did he charge on your credit card for the car repairs?
For the car repairs, about $1,400.
And how much of that did you pay?
I'd say I paid probably all of it.
Show me.
I can't show you. I can show you what I did pay, though. I can show you what I've paid over the years. Basically, the plaintiff had my checkbook. She wrote checks for me. She just said, okay, well, this is what we're paying, this is what I'm paying. And I just continued to pay.
Let me just see, sir, your checks for June.
There you go.
Okay. June.
And this is a statement. I paid $908. Your Honor, basically through our relationship, I paid for everything.
What are you showing me here?
Those are copies. I couldn't get canceled checks in time. The bank sent me the wrong statements. So I'm showing you a bank statement, and as well as a copy of my check ledger, which shows that I paid $908.
I'm not interested in your check ledger, sir. Okay. Now, what about Visa? Let me see the charges on Visa for his car.
They're right here. And I have payments. I mean, he was accredited, this is from October of 95 until July of 96. And there's, in the red, those are his payments. So I gave him full credit for everything that he did or paid. I just want what he owes me plus the interest. It's accrued since. I agree that it's pretty lame that he charged on the credit card.
Very lame. Very lame. And
It wasn't a
nobody's
matter of me charging on her card. It's like, I want this, I'm charging on the credit card, and you're paying for it.
Okay. You owe her some money for the car repairs, sir.
But these other charges, I mean, are his that he made.
Your Honor, did she...
I would not have said that, yes, go ahead and use my credit
Your
card
Honor,
and I'll pay for this.
On the American Express bill that she breaks down for June, does she break down what would be my charges and her charges?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why wouldn't she want to do that throughout our relationship on the American Express bill that I paid?
Why?
We always do.
Just a second. Why?
Yeah.
She did.
No.
But maybe she did it in this month because, you know, you don't break up overnight, sir. Things start going bad in the months before that.
A couple years before that.
Right? Well, then you stayed in the relationship longer than you should have. You know, people have to be smart, both men and women. You don't commingle these assets and expect somebody else, courts, to waste their time going through a 5-year relationship, separating who bought Kleenex and who bought toilet paper and whether it was his toilet paper or your Kleenex. That's just not going to happen, madam. You look like an intelligent young woman. You don't let somebody else use your credit card. You
I
know,
took his word. I thought he
dating
would
for
pay.
4.5 years isn't being married.
I realize that.
Why, after 4.5 years, weren't you married? Huh?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, Mr. Fraley.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. You broke up in June.
July.
In July of 1996, correct?
Yes.
What I would like you to do is, assuming that this was valid evidence, which it is not, but assuming it was, I just want you to take out the sheet of payments that you made on the Visa and MasterCard on or after July of 1996.
None.
All right. So that what you're expecting me to believe, sir,
Said everything was paid prior.
is that you were all up to date on the Visa and all up to date on the MasterCard, if that's what you want me to believe.
That's what I want you to believe.
No way. No way.
Your Honor, breakups are never good. I mean, through our 4-year relationship, I paid for, and I think the plaintiff will agree that I basically financially took care of her When we went out,
I would disagree.
well, she can disagree if she'd like, but since I was making more money than her, I took more of the financial burden, and that was understood.
Except, sir, that when you broke up, there was an $8,000 bill due on Visa.
Okay.
That was a debt. That was a debt that...
Wasn't my $8,000.
Well, but a good portion, at least a portion of it, sir, was yours. A portion of it here has your car repairs, which were extensive, and you were making minimum payments due on the account. So then you break up and you decide, well, I don't have to make minimum payments anymore on the account. I'm not going to make another payment on the account, which is exactly what you did, because there is nothing in your ledger to suggest that after you kissed each other goodbye, you made one additional payment, which is really sort of outrageous.
I never knew how much money I paid all along now.
Well, that's your problem.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I do believe him when he says that he paid for certain things in cash. Otherwise, you would have been a jerk to stay with him since he was earning 4 times as much as you were, right?
Yes.
Good.
And later today,
You don't, sir, ask her boyfriend to step up to the mic so that you can do fisticuffs with him. It's like Dumb and Dumber.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wendy Hickman wants her ex-boyfriend, Mark Fraley, to pay her back for the use of her credit while they were together.
She's suing you for half of this $8,000, and I don't even know if half of it is yours. But I certainly think that your car repairs are yours. There are a lot of other charges here that are substantial, big ones. You know, did you go to Tahoma Lodge in Tahoma, California together?
Yeah, we did.
You went together and you charged that on the credit card, $232, right?
She charged it. I paid it.
You paid.
Okay, she would charge something. I'd bring cash, and I'd pay cash.
Who would you pay cash to?
I'd pay cash for everything else. It wasn't a matter of, okay, let's throw everything on the credit card. I wasn't walking around penniless.
Oh, just a second. I understand. You went to this lodge, and how long were you at the lodge?
Two nights.
Yeah, 2 nights.
2 nights. The truth is, I see what you mean. The lodge is paid for on here, but you also had to eat. You tip people. I assume you didn't go skiing or
I
whatever.
have my own money. It's not like I went penniless.
No, but he was with you, so I assume he paid.
No, not necessarily.
You know something? Truth of the matter is, I don't necessarily believe you either. I think that you put some things on your credit card, some things that are clearly his bills. But according to this, you did go on vacation, certain things you put on the credit card. But if you look down the same dates, there are no dates there, like for restaurants going out to eat, so that he probably paid some of the meals in cash, and you put some of the stuff on your credit card. And whether that balanced itself out 50-50 is anybody's guess. You still had an $8,000 nut. Nobody is going to figure this out. Certainly, I am not going to award you $4,000. Because I do believe him when he says that he paid for certain things in cash. Otherwise, you would have been a jerk to stay with him since he was earning 4 times as much as you were. Right?
Yes.
Good. So I don't think you look like a jerk. So I'm awarding you $2,000. Consider yourself lucky. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Unbelievable. So I was helping him out. He didn't have the money. He didn't have the credit to get a credit card. So I allowed him to use it.
I was making 4 times as much, so how come I didn't have the money?
I don't know. Good question. You just don't say on good faith that I'm going to pay you back and you don't do it. That's just wrong.
Oh, but it's okay to take and take and take, and then that's all right.
You have a twisted view of our relationship.
And now the next case.
All parties on Welton versus Lunaria Restaurant. Step forward, please.
Harmonica virtuoso Danny Welton is suing restaurant owner Bernard Jacopi for not paying for his performance. Bernard claims the harmonica player's rude behavior caused customers to leave.
Mr. Welton,
Yes, ma'am.
you play the harmonica.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You do that for a living?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
According to your complaint, you had a contract with the defendant to play at his restaurant.
We had a verbal agreement because I...
Am I speaking? You had a contract with the defendant
Yes,
to
ma'am.
play at his restaurant.
Yes, ma'am.
You played there.
Yes, ma'am.
He didn't pay you.
That's right.
That's what this case is about.
That's right.
He's got a defense, and he says, you didn't play and you cost him money. So, your agreement was an oral one. How much were you supposed to be paid?
Initially, my band was supposed to get $350 for the band. I was supposed to get 85% of all covers.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was supposed to be reimbursed for an ad I took out in the Hollywood Reporter.
Mm-hmm.
I got not, and also, something very important and very dear to me, he was supposed to feed my band, and he gave them nothing. Nothing.
No, that's not true. Even according to you, he gave him something. According to you, he gave him stale pizza.
Yeah, well, stale pizza. That was nothing.
They ate it.
They spit it. Well, actually, they spit it out.
Mr. Welton, let me explain something to you, sir. We are not going to, in this proceeding, play with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
This was for a one-night performance?
One-night engagement.
And how many shows were you supposed to do in that one night?
2.
And did you do the first one?
Yes, ma'am, and it was packed.
Packed. And then there was a problem, according to you, sir, with the second performance. So why don't you tell me about it?
There was a drunken lady in the audience who started to heckle me.
What did you say?
You know, I'll be honest with you, Judge. I do not recall exactly. If I were to say exactly, I would be wrong.
Okay, so you started shouting things.
That's right.
How long have you been a performer, sir?
All my life. Since
So
I'm
I
3 years old.
I assume you've had people do this sort of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
And
what
I
did
know
you
how
do?
to handle them.
So what'd you do?
I start throwing lines back at her to keep her quiet, hoping that would squelch the problem. And her boyfriend got mad at me and threatened to charge the microphone. And I said, come on. You know, he was going to come up there. I was, you know, I wasn't going to back off. I've never taken a half a step backwards in my entire life.
So what happened?
Bernard closed the show at that point.
Bernard, you closed the show down when that's
Your
was
Honor,
happening.
we were forced to.
You closed down the show. Is that right? Very smart. Exactly the right thing to do. So what happened next?
Well, actually, there weren't that many people there because it's kind of an early type supper club. You get your big crowd the first show, and sometimes I noticed that there's never even a second show. The first 2 times I played there, there wasn't even a second show.
Oh, you played there before?
Twice before.
Did he pay you?
Yes, the first time everything went well. The second time, he broke his agreement with me. He did not pay me the cover charges.
But you went back for a third time.
Well, I gave him another chance. You know, I'm kind of a sucker that way.
A sucker who never backs down.
That's right. Kind of an all-day, not back down sucker.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Welton marched around the bar screaming profanity that he was not going on until he was introduced because he's a very big star and he doesn't do things this way.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Harmonica virtuoso Danny Welton is suing restaurant owner Bernard Jacopi for not paying for his performance.
You didn't pay him, correct?
Correct.
You didn't pay him anything.
Not even a biscuit.
No, he gave you stale pizza, Mr. Welton. Mr. Jacobi, tell me why you didn't pay him at all.
The agreement was for 3 shows, like every entertainer. He only did once. We had to reimburse the people that were there, and we had to
You
turn
mean
away
reimburse the people for the second show?
for the second show.
For the cover charge?
That's correct. And we had to turn away all the people that are coming for the second and third show. We had to close the bar. We lost bar revenue, and we lost show revenue. In addition to that, his manager that is present had a tab for $80. Here it is, and he signed it saying he was going to pay it the following day. He never did come and pay it.
Well, that's not his problem. He is not his manager's
Well,
keeper.
he was representing Mr. Weldon. And in leaving the property, we have witness here. He assaulted our maitre d'. We have the copy of the security and the police report here. And it doesn't
Who's the
seem-
maitre d'?
I am.
Step up, sir. What is your name?
Gerard Buck.
You have a complaint filed against this gentleman for assault?
I did file a complaint, yes.
How did he assault you?
On the way out, he elbowed me very hard and kicked me.
That is not true.
We called security, made a report, and then filed a complaint with the police. Made a report with the police department.
Were you escorting him off forcefully?
No, you can't go near him. I mean, he's out of control.
If I may, Your Honor?
You are the manager?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You drink a lot.
Pardon?
You drink a lot.
No, that wasn't just for me. That was for other people in the audience.
Well, but you were buying.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Why didn't you pay the bill?
Because he said he's not going to pay us. And I said, you can deduct it from what you owe us.
Oh, was that what you said?
That's exactly what I said to him.
Oh, so you told him to deduct
the $80 from the amount of money he
from
owed
the
us.
$300.
Well, there were 28, Your Honor, if I may explain.
Sure.
It's a small showroom with a large bar off to the right-hand side of the performers and a large restaurant that opens up during the performances.
Your Honor.
Just a second. What is your last name?
Edel, Your Honor. Edell.
Mr. Riedel, were you there when this incident occurred with this lady heckler?
Absolutely.
Well, didn't you tell Mr. Welton that he behaved totally inappropriately?
No, I don't believe he did behave
Sure he
inappropriately.
did.
This man threatened him bodily.
No, he didn't threaten him until he started.
Oh, no, Your Honor.
Mr. Riedel, just pay attention to me,
Surely.
sir. He's not a comedian.
Yes, I am.
He's a You are?
He's also a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian, Your Honor.
Listen to me.
Yes, sir, ma'am.
When you're performing, you're in somebody else's house. You, sir, are in his house.
Yes, ma'am.
He has invited guests into his house.
A couple of drunken ones.
That's possible. You weren't playing, sir, in a church. You were playing in a bar restaurant. And somebody was behaving badly.
Excuse me.
Don't say excuse me. I don't excuse you. Pay attention. You don't have to be a genius to figure this out. You just have to use a little common sense. If somebody is drunk in the audience, then what you do is you try not to have that escalate into a dangerous situation. Dangerous either for you, for the other patrons, for members of the band. And if a situation appears to be escalating, then you use good judgment, not that male macho testosterone that I've heard about so much lately. You walk off the stage and you approach the owner or the manager and you say, there's this lady out there heckling me. I just taken a quick break. See what you can do about this lady because I can't continue to perform. You don't, sir, ask her boyfriend to step up to the mic so that you can do fisticuffs with him.
No, he invited himself up to the mic.
And no, you said, come on up here.
Well,
You know, it's like Dumb and Dumber.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're supposed to be in charge. You're
Sober
supposed
as a
to
judge.
exercise good judgment. And good judgment is not closing down the show because you invite somebody to come up to the stage, somebody who is probably drunk because he's with a drunken lady, according to you.
well, he charged the stage, so I said, come on, you know.
You know, Mr. Welton, you keep changing your story. I want to tell you something. You told me your story. You said, I don't back away from anything. He says, I'm going to come up there, and you said, come on. Dum-dum. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
All is excused. You may step out. This is
lao động thay đổi căn cước công dân thì có cần phải làm lại sổ bảo hiểm xã hội mới hay là không? Chia sẻ với các bạn về cái vấn đề này như sau. Người lao động đổi từ thẻ chứng minh nhân dân sang căn cước công dân 13 số dẫn đến thông tin ghi trên sổ bảo hiểm xã hội bị sai, thì trong trường hợp này người lao động cần thực hiện thủ tục điều chỉnh lại thông tin trên sổ bảo hiểm xã hội theo quy định. Và căn cứ theo quy định tại điều 27 của quyết định 595 QĐ BHXH và khoản 31 điều 1 quyết định 505 QĐ BHXH, người sử dụng lao động hoặc người lao động làm hồ sơ và thủ tục cấp lại sổ bảo hiểm xã hội do thay đổi thông tin cá nhân như chứng minh nhân dân, họ tên, chữ đệm, ngày tháng năm sinh, giới tính, dân tộc, quốc tịch, điều chỉnh nội dung đã ghi trên sổ bảo hiểm xã hội. Như vậy, trong trường hợp thông tin ghi trên sổ bảo hiểm xã hội của người lao động bị sai, người lao động cần thực hiện các cái thủ tục cấp lại sổ bảo hiểm xã hội theo quy định mà pháp luật đã quy định rồi. Nếu như mà chúng ta có một cái vấn đề nữa, cũng được rất là nhiều các lao động quan tâm, đó là việc mất sổ bảo hiểm xã hội thì có lấy được bảo hiểm xã hội một lần hay là không. Dạ vâng, thì hiện nay cái việc giữ sổ bảo hiểm xã hội là do người tham gia bảo hiểm xã hội tự quản lý. Do đó sẽ không có tránh khỏi cái tình trạng sổ bảo hiểm bị mất. Vậy thì trong trường hợp bị mất sổ thì người lao động có rút được bảo hiểm xã hội một lần hay là không ạ? Theo quy định về hồ sơ hưởng bảo hiểm xã hội một lần có yêu cầu bản gốc sổ bảo hiểm xã hội của người lao động, thì như vậy người lao động không giữ sổ bảo hiểm xã hội gốc sẽ không được cơ quan bảo hiểm xã hội giải quyết được chế độ bảo hiểm một lần theo quy định. Trong trường hợp này thì người lao động cần thực hiện các cái bước sau đây. Bước thứ nhất là thực hiện làm thủ tục xin cấp lại sổ bảo hiểm do bị mất. Rồi sau khi nhận sổ mới thì người lao động gửi để đề nghị đến cơ quan bảo hiểm xã hội để được giải quyết bảo hiểm xã hội một lần. Vậy thì với cái trường hợp mà khách hàng bị mất sổ bảo hiểm xã hội mà muốn rút một lần thì việc đầu tiên là người ta phải tiến hành